After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
The Outlaws Sim Series playoffs comes to the brand new Atlanta Motor Speedway. And last week, Vincent Cortez played spoiler, so there are still 8 spots up for grabs in the season finale at Richmond. And 225 laps at his mile-and-a-half turn super speedway will be a very intriguing watch right here, right now on Pit Stop TV. Good evening all, and welcome to the virtual Hampton, Georgia. Andrew Cardinale IV joins me alongside for the call and the production this evening. And Andrew, we had a very entertaining and very strategy-filled race last week. We're looking for more of that good stuff tonight.
Yeah, that we are, Emerson. Homestead, I think, played the perfect role that it needed to in this season, and it gave us kind of an upset winner in Vinny Cortez, meaning, as you said, there are still 8 points positions open to drivers to transfer. Well, sorry, 4 positions. There we go. But nobody's locked in yet on a win. That's the important part going into the last 2 races of, well, any opportunity to make it into the Final Four. So 2 more opportunities, but we're sending at least 2 drivers in on points, and I think that's big, especially when you come to a wild card race like this that tends to have so many impacts on standings, and you tend to have a crash or 2, you tend to have a surprise winner. So a lot's going to change tonight. I think that's definitely what's on the card for Atlanta, and yeah, as you said, this is the new Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Absolutely, and this has been a blast to drive on the service, especially in the NextGen cars that we're running this evening. You can see the shape, for all intents and purposes, remains the same for the most part, so the traditional mile-and-a-half quad oval kind of feel. But when you get out there, the banking has been increased to 28 degrees of banking. They've narrowed the track racing surface up a little bit, so it feels a little bit more like Daytona. You're still very much capable of running 3, even 4 wide cleanly in between the walls, but oh boy, it gets a lot of fun. And then the quad oval, depending on how leagues rule, the way that the curves work in the quad oval with the red line being out of bounds here, that could also have that's led to a lot of trouble across a bunch of races here on the service, and waiting to see how these boys can fight through if they're in a pack all packed up through the quad oval.
You'll have to wait and see how that goes. I think one of the most impressive things about this Atlanta Motor Speedway reconfiguration is that it worked. It worked really, really well. It wasn't one of those that fell flat with fans like some other reconfigurations of several tracks in the past. This, while yes, it's a long draw away from what a lot of fans might have wanted out of Atlanta Motor Speedway, it still worked and fans were still excited, and it creates one heck of a product to watch, whether it's in real life or on iRacing. I had the pleasure, the privilege of going to Atlanta Motor Speedway earlier on this year, granted not for the Cup race, but just to see the place in person after it's been renovated, and I had seen the place in person before. The before and after is really, really crazy, really insane, and that banking, even if you just go up to the outside of the catch fence, boy, it's really, really surreal to just look straight down at the apron. 28 degrees now in the corners. It's a lot.
Absolutely, and it is a lot. 28 degrees of banking. It comes up from the 24 degrees of banking that this track had previously, and for what it's worth, the previous track was a whole lot of fun, but it needed a repave badly, and that's when the track owners with SMI and Atlanta Motor Speedway decided that we're gonna go ahead and reconfigure this place as well into a super speedway, and it's been a lot of fun in real life, and it's been a blast to race on the sim.
Yeah, Marcus Smith and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, they did a good job with this, and they've got, I think, big plans as well for places like Texas Motor Speedway and a lot of them, and of course North Wilkesboro, but it's kind of interesting then that we're going to Wilkesboro next. Let's take a look at the standings going into this evening, Emerson, and it's interesting the way we've broken this down now with the one green number, the 4 yellow numbers, and the 1 red number. Of course, those are in, on the bubble, and out, and right now Jennings is the only driver that feels even the slightest bit safe, and even he is not entirely safe. He could drop out of this on points alone. It's not likely, though. It's not likely, but Seth Berger, Max Service, they could absolutely flip spots again like they did last week, and Fitzpatrick and Schumacher, they're only 1 point apart coming into this. Of course, they can flip positions as well, and then you look at the 3 guys at the bottom that are in red. They really need a Hail Mary, and while they're just about as mathematically in this as Jennings could be out of this, that's mathematics, that's not realistic expectations, and we of course know that the guys ahead of them are going to keep scoring points and keep making it more difficult for those 3 to make it in on points alone. It's going to take a win for Sutzman, Bailey, or Reeves.
In all reality, yes, it's going to take a win for those bottom 3 to make it into the championship 4 at Richmond. But what perfect venue to do to have a race here in the round of 8, the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where it can be just that. When I look at Jeremiah Stutzman, who has 3 wins on the season, 2 of them came at super speedways, and 1 was field mileage at Michigan. He very much can work up strategy and come to fruition here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway turned super speedway. Scott Bailey and Jacob Reeves, they have ran very consistent at the speedway races this season as well. Last Chance Racing puts up a great performance in the stages. I could see them trying to claw a bunch of points up in the middle of this race and being there at the end as well. And as far as the battle between Fitzpatrick and Schumacher, it is 1 point. You look at Fitzpatrick as one of the favorites going into North Wilkesboro. So I think this is pretty much a very a day where Adrian Schumacher needs to get a lot of stage points as well. And of course, Service and Berger need to keep their advantage atop the standings. And Jennings, he can just ride. I think even maybe the only thing that can dethrone Jennings there at the top of the standings is probably going to be an early crash without stage points. But even that, with the field size the way it is coming right now, Jennings looks very much alive, and heading into the short track next week in North Wilkesboro, he's going to be one of the favorites there as well.
Yeah, I think worst case for Jonathan Jennings, he walks out of here even with the cut line, and he just races for himself at Wilkesboro. I don't see a world where he possibly leaves here on the negative side, but it could happen. We could see some things happen today. It would just take a lot for it to happen. Let's take a look at the schedule as to how we got here, Emerson. And of course, I've only been here for a few races. I raced Laguna Seca and the Roval, and I've only been here now commentating for 1 race, Homestead Miami last week. But this is one heck of a schedule, first of all, that was put together. I know there was a lot of influence from a lot of different people in the league and around the league, and boy, did it conjure up one heck of a season.
Absolutely. I like the way that Adam kind of puts the schedule together. He kind of grouped the admins together and just said, start throwing tracks at the dartboard and see what sticks. And then there was a few select tracks. I think you even got to pick and throw Laguna Seca up there as well. With previous champions also getting picks as well. And it was a fun process to put the schedule together. And it has been nothing short of entertaining. It has been a blast all the way through from the very beginning of February, and now we're gonna take this bad boy to the middle of December. It's been a long journey to get to this point, but oh boy, it has been quite the journey. And we look at it, the playoffs with the roadies, that's gotten Adrian Schumacher a very hefty point margin coming into this round, and the short tracks that have helped out the Fitzpatricks and the Jennings, and the speedway there at Darlington was a lot of fun as well. And here we are. We had a playoff spoiler at Homestead. Tonight at Atlanta, we could still see another playoff spoiler. But with the numbers the way they are, I think we are at 8 playoff drivers to 6 non-playoff drivers right now. And, anything can happen tonight. And North Wilkesboro is going to be just as crazy.
Yeah, I got to choose races 21 and 33, those being Laguna Seca and Homestead Miami last race 2 weeks ago. Although I did choose, technically, Twin Ring Motegi for that one, but we went ahead and switched that to Homestead, thinking more drivers would have that, and that was a great decision, by the way. It turned out to be a fantastic race. But practice is underway, inside of 8.5 minutes to go. Max Service fastest. Does that surprise you at all?
I'm not really surprised with Swift Racing bringing the speed that they have right now at the top of the charts. I know because I'm well in that group when we have plate races come up in the officials. We're all the first ones to sign up to get in there, and we just start slam drafting each other in those officials. I'm sure Max Service, Vincent Cortez, Seth Berger, they all feel very confident doing the same type of stuff here at Atlanta. Though it's one of the speedways that I guess as a group we've ran the least together, but the setups that Max Service works on week in and week out, they prove to bring the speed each and every week, and it's not a surprise to see them atop the charts. It'll be intriguing to see with their car count in that team versus Last Chance Racing to see what kind of dynamic the race has.
On board here with Max Service. Nobody on track right now. Seth Berger, the only car moving, as you see him pull to the head of this pit party train. And here we go. Car is heading out on track for the first time that we will see on-track action here on the broadcast tonight. 14 cars, not the largest field ever, but, there's still a lot that goes into that, Emerson. I really, we were talking about a pre-broadcast. I kind of feel like tonight's an interesting night. Usually we see these guys go green flag. I feel like even with the limited car count, I feel a wreck in the air, and I don't mean that in any negative way, but these guys, they usually have clean races. They get very comfortable with one another, and I feel a wreck at some point. These guys are really comfortable at this point, but that can also be a bad thing. They can start making some crazy moves that maybe they don't need to just yet, especially for stage points that are mattering more and more. I have a feeling.
I can sympathize with that feeling. I get it. These guys, they have demonstrated that they can run week after week green flag, but we were talking about it before the broadcast. That could lead to maybe a little bit of overconfidence in one another, and maybe one little push gone wrong, and we could see this whole race kind of turned upside down. As you see, the Swift Racing and Co. Pit party, they get off on their on their group practice here to round out the rest of practice. It's an interesting dynamic to see that kind of stuff happen in practice as well. But with that, we've seen the aggression in practice. It very much can translate to the race. So I can agree with you, Andrew. We may have an incident that could turn this race upside down at any point throughout the 225.
And I think one of the drivers we have to talk the most about is Jacob Reeves. There's 2 drivers, by the way, left in contention for the championship that have made every single race and sit atop the laps completed and the most corners completed, for example. One of them is Jacob Reeves. The other is Jeremiah Stutzman. Both of them are in really bad positions, Emerson, going into tonight. One of them is out by, 30 points? The other is out by 33 points, something like that. It's pretty remarkable what they have to do to get into the next round, and I think we're going to be talking to both of them. Here comes Jacob Reeves, in fact.
Absolutely, and we will bring up driver of the number 22, Jacob Reeves. And Jacob, I understand Homestead did not go the way you planned. 32 points out. That is a hefty margin. The car count is not working with your intentions tonight. What is the game plan to see if you can reel yourself out of this 32-point deficit?
Win. Literally, it's win. Win this week, win next week. Try to win. I mean, like I said last week, we're trophy hunting. I figured we might be able to try to point our way some way somehow at Homestead. And everybody came out with some pretty good cars last week, and that kind of killed the momentum. But we're in my home state this evening, so try to win one for the Georgia fans.
And Andrew just mentioned it, but you weren't here, obviously. You are one of 2 drivers that are still in playoff contention to have made every single start this season. I think you're top 3 in miles and laps complete. You have been one of the banner drivers this season to be here the entire time. And with that, you've consistently worked your way up the results chart. And you're one of the highest drivers points without a win. Tonight, looking at it, what are your odds? I know it's a super speedway, but seeing yourself get it done tonight here, race 34 on the season.
Well, I guess they're kind of stacked, I guess you say. I mean, I know we got a low car count, so it kind of threw my game plan out the door, what I was thinking. I figured it was going to be some more cars, but, I think my odds are, 1 out of 15. So I mean, that's the best odds we got. Everybody's very capable to win here. But I think I've showed a little bit of speed this season at the plate tracks and showed that I can be fast and run up front. And so we'll see what we got. The EPI Chevrolet is looking good tonight. Feeling good. I'm feeling good. We'll see what happens.
All right, and we've seen, of course, Last Chance Racing and your group of guys be very aggressive for stage wins this season at the plate races, at the super speedway races. Being at your 32 points out, do you still see points are as an option to get into the playoffs? And will you be aggressive in the stage, or will you be kind of riding back and see if there's an incident that happens at the stage?
I mean, that far back, there's a lot of good guys in here. Adrian, Seth Berger, Max, all them guys, and even some of my teammates, Fitzy and Jonathan. We ain't gonna be able to. I really don't think in my eyes, I don't think we're gonna be able to point it. We're gonna have to win. That's a lot of good guys to try to beat, but we beat them a couple times this season, so we'll see what happens. I'm just ready to get this bad boy going.
Absolutely. Well, there it is. Driver 32 points out from the cut line, but still in high spirits. Jacob Reeves looking to see if he can work his way into the championship four in 5 weeks' time. So best of luck to you tonight, Jacob, and hopefully we'll talk to you on the far side.
I hope so. Appreciate it, guys.
There it is, driver of the number 22, Jacob Reeves, and Andrew, the other driver, kind of in that hole, but in the same scenario that they've made every race this season. A driver who has won 2 super speedway races in a 5-week span. Jeremiah Stutzman is also somebody that I look to have a good run tonight, needing a good run tonight. Jeremiah, you come into today's race 27 points below the cut line. Of course, you fared pretty well at the super speedways this season. Someone could chalk it up to luck. How are you feeling about your chances tonight, and how you can get yourself into the championship four? Try that one more time. Jeremiah, do you have a copy? All right, looks like Jeremiah is not able to be interviewed right now, so practice is coming to a close. So we'll go ahead and let him kind of wrap up, do his thing, and we'll see how he fares tonight. But again, in a similar boat to Jacob Reeves this evening, down in the points, and somebody who has been very consistent at these super speedway races and can be a big factor tonight.
And he goes 5th in practice as well. I know practice, these guys are pack racing pretty much, but still, 5th place on the speed charts is not a bad place to be with 16 cars checking in this afternoon. Now, weather, as far as weather goes, temps were, well, you can see them there. They were right at that 84, 85 degree mark in practice. That holds going into qualifying. As qualifying begins here, 10 minutes of kind of waiting around. How do these guys play chicken? Who goes first? Well, it seems like Hunter Simpson is the first car to take to the track.
And Hunter Simpson, he's one of the new guys to the series, Andrew. Homestead being one of his, it might have been his first start. I'd have to check the records exactly on that. But Hunter Simpson, he actually fared pretty well at Homestead for it being, and around he goes. He clips the apron there. I was just about to say, this could be Last Chance Racing sending out Hunter Simpson to go see what kind of speed is out there in the track, because the track temp is very high right now. And here comes Jonathan Jennings, wasting no time.
Jennings straight on track. Of course, he doesn't really have a whole lot to worry about. He's not locked in, but he's in a really good spot. There are not many times that you have this many drivers on the battlefield and you're pretty much headed your way off, with all limbs. I mean, he's in such a good position for this race. And yes, this very much could be the beginning of a jinx, but I'll knock on wood for him real quick. Hopefully that's not the case, because car 91 is in a really good looking spot to, I really think, do exactly what Joey Logano did this year in the NASCAR Cup Series. I know he didn't win the first race of the round of 8, but be comfortable the entire round of 8. Just sit back and get yourself ready for that finale at Richmond. If he's able to do so, Jonathan Jennings could be the guy to watch out for so long as he leaves here at Atlanta in a good spot.
Absolutely. He'll say it himself. He is not very fond of this type of racing, the super speedway pack racing type of racing, and he is much preferred to the short tracks that we have coming up. But this, with that being said, this is one of the biggest humps and probably one of the last humps that Jennings has to clear to get himself to Richmond, and it'll be intriguing to see how he is placed into the Last Chance Racing strategy this evening, knowing that he's 28 points above the cut line. Can he be a little bit more wild with it?
It's interesting so far. There you go. Jennings goes to the top of the board, but Simpson and Fitzpatrick beat him on the opening lap. And now that Jennings is on a lap number 3, we'll see if maybe lap 2 can hold for him, or if lap 3 is better. Lap 2 for Hunter Simpson across the line. And is it any faster? Looks like it is faster by about 3/100ths of a second, but not fast enough for pole. Scott Bailey gets on the board with his number 11 Home Depot throwback. That's an interesting combo. That's a Denny Hamlin number on a Tony Stewart paint scheme, but hey, it fits the time, and that does look good.
You know what? I know back in the day, Gibbs started with Chevys. I like this combination.
I think this is the 08 scheme. I think this is from when he ran a Toyota, because I also see Subway there on the C-pillar. So I think this is Tony Stewart's 08 paint scheme, but it looks fantastic. That's a good looking one for sure. And hey, he looks good on the speed chart, second quick.
Absolutely. So Scott Bailey there rocks it up to the second position. Setzer puts it up for quick. They're on board of Adrian Schumacher at 1 point out. But I think realistically, this has got to be a gotta grab every kind of point kind of day for Adrian, just because I am fully expecting Fitzpatrick to bring out his strengths next week.
Schumacher, the slowest of all qualifiers so far, but only 1 lap complete. Here goes lap 2. Is it any faster? It's faster, but not by much. That's not going to get him anything. I don't know if this is just a setup trying to go for stability in the pack, but he's slow. I mean, this is a half-second off pace. That is over a 10th. Even more now off of the rest of the field. Matthew Byers going to 3rd place in his number 94 Chevrolet Camaro. Seth Berger also on track in the number 77. Vincent Cortez, last race's winner, on track as well in car 23. But how about Seth Berger, actually? A couple of brand new paint schemes coming out here. Bergart's all over the car. And he's, for a long time, been one of the best in this series. Not necessarily home free by any means, but in a good spot. Just like Jennings, just a few less points battling there with Max Service. I think he's got to feel good coming into today, right?
Absolutely. Seth Berger, he's been in this spot before. He won the Season 1 championship. Before that season, he had only been on iRacing for 6 weeks before the start of that Season 1 season, where he ended up winning 6 races and winning the title. in season 2 at this very facility, just the older version of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. He lost the championship by 19 1/1000ths of a second to current series champ Greg Holt. And right now, here he is at Atlanta Motor Speedway, albeit the Super Speedway now, in that Superior One Electric Incorporated Chevrolet Camaro in that number 77, trying to see if he can work his way into a third consecutive Championship 4 appearance, and he's looking pretty good to do so. Qualifying right now 10th, but still has opportunity, and it's looking like Swift Racing did not prioritize qualifying this week.
Yeah, I mean, with Schumacher 8th, Cortez 9th, Berger 10th, these guys all very much off pace with single car speed. And I know qualifying does not win you the race, but I am a little concerned. If we get a green flag run to end this race, you need some single car speed. You need to be able to be fast on your own. You have to be able to make passes. I'm a little concerned, actually, for that strategy. I know what they're going for. I don't disagree with it. I'm just a little concerned that maybe in this league, especially with these green flag races we often see, maybe they're not set up for the right thing. But here's Justin McMahon on track with the Group Interactive Chevrolet Camaro. 5th quick on lap number 1 of 11 cars that are qualified. Max Service, Jeremiah Stutzman also on track. Andrew St. Clair, Matt Rogers, and Adam Gardner. The 3 cars now not yet to take a time or get on the racetrack at all.
For you to see there, Adam Gardner's one. I do expect to kind of wait qualifying out and see what happens. Jeremiah Stutzman is one of the late bloomers in almost every qualifying session, so here he comes. And this is somebody, again, who's seen success. Won at iRacing Super Speedway in a photo finish. Won Michigan on a Field Maya strategy, and somehow found his way through the carnage at Daytona to win there. All in a 5-week span, those 3 wins came. Since then, he's been very consistent and is looking to see if we can find another peak in his season performance here with Atlanta.
Just riding on board here with Stutzman. Let's go on board now with Max Service as he's out of turn number 4 this time. This will complete lap number 2 of his run. And the Swift guys, they are way down on the apron. They are cutting the apron on the front stretch, which can get a little bit tricky, but it works out. Max Service 2nd quick, and I like that for car 81. Going for the pole, going for the jugular almost on Jonathan Jennings, and going to bring the fight early maybe. Less than a quarter second off of, less than a quarter of a tenth, I should say, off of Jonathan Jennings. Let's see if he has anything lap 3.
Well, Max Service bringing the heat here in qualifying, and I don't know if the track temperature significantly dropped and Service found a sweet spot of it, or there was a problem in the qualifying setup distribution. It's still 133 degrees Fahrenheit. Service set 3rd now because Stutzman goes to 2nd.
Wow, Stutzman comes in clutch as well. The wind might have shifted maybe to push them around, maybe less headwind, I'm not sure. But look at Stutzman, 8 1/1000ths of a second off pole, and it seems like lap 3 is not that quick, but is going to take a shot at it here his 3rd and final lap. Still no St. Clair, Rogers, or Gardner on track with 1:50 to go. Stutzman to the line. Needs to beat a 31.548, runs a 31.672. That's not going to do it.
Now that lap was slower, but what a run. 8 1/1000ths off of Jonathan Jennings atop the charts. A little surprised to not see Andrew St. Clair take a crack at this qualifying session. Andrew St. Clair was our first pole sitter at a super speedway, actually 2nd because we had Talladega. So he got pole in the season 1 Daytona race and has looked pretty stout in qualifying at most of the speedway races, super speedway races this season. Not taking to the track this time, though, with a minute left in qualifying.
So 16 cars in total ready to go this evening from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Still a little bit of time for cars to get out on track, but it doesn't look like they'll be doing so. While we wait for qualifying to run down, we're going to take a quick step aside and get ready for 225 laps from Hampton, Georgia, the Peach State, here in just a moment. Welcome back to the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, and you can see the brand new pavement laid down with brand new drainage technology, and of course those 28-degree banks in the corners, and 40-foot wide racetrack. It narrows things up quite literally here in Atlanta, and it makes things a lot of fun. We are ready to roll 16 cars around the Atlanta Motor Speedway for 225 laps. It is the Outlaws Sim Series here. Race 34 of 36. That's right, race 2 of the round of 8 as we get ready to crown a champion here for season number 3. Jonathan Jennings leads us to the green today from pole, and here's a look at our entire Whiplash Media SimCams starting grid. Jeremiah Stutzman will roll off from the second place, and Emerson, we've talked about it, he needs a win coming into this evening. He just needs a win regardless if he wants to be fighting for a championship at Richmond in a few weeks' time. Starting third, though, you'll find Max Service. Justin McMahon, a non-playoff driver, starts from fourth. Starting fifth, it's Scott Bailey, Matthew Byers, both on that third row. And to wrap up the first half of the field, you'll find Hunter Simpson and Matthew Setzer, two drivers not in it for any biscuits.
Row number 5, we'll find a 22 of Jacob Reeves, the 2 of Seth Fitzpatrick. Jacob Reeves needs a great run today from that 8th place in points, 32 points out. And Adrian Schumacher, 1 point below the cut line. He starts 11th. Seth Berger looking for his 3rd consecutive championship 4 appearance, starts 12th. Vincent Cortez, last week's first-time winner, starts 13th. Andrew St. Cour will start in 14th. And rounding out the final row of our 16-car grid this evening, Adam Gardner and Matt Rogers, both drivers looking for their first career Outlaws Sim Series victories, and both looked pretty stout last time at a super speedway.
It is a toasty day here in the virtual Hampton, Georgia. It is definitely not November in the sim. Otherwise, it'd be about 40 degrees, maybe 50 or 60 degrees. Not warm regardless. It is a warm, sunny day, and we are right about, I think, noon or just in the afternoon. It's going to be a hot one for these guys. They're going to be slipping and sliding a little bit, but of course, we are on that 28 degrees banking. More track to catch the cars on. We'll see how they can do today over 225 miles. Coming down to the ICO restart zone, waiting on the call from the starter, and green flag is out. We're racing at Atlanta. Down to turn 3, look at the bumps already into the third corner. Emerson, big time jostling there on the bottom side of the racetrack with Jennings and Service and even Bailey there. And coming to the start-finish line, who's it going to be? Outside lane, Stutzman.
Making a 26-point deficit for Jeremiah Stetson as he picks up that bonus point for leading the opening lap of the race this evening, and it's going toe-to-toe with Jonathan Jennings. This track very inviting to this top double wide kind of racing, and these Outlaw Sim Series guys very comfortable with that as well. Looking to see a lot of this today.
Look at how fast these guys go rolling out of turn number 4. Wide open just about. Let's go on board back in the field with, let's see, this is Adrian Schumacher, car 82, and this is a guy who needs points, comes into the day 1 point out of the final 4, and you can see there's nowhere to go. This is a log jam. There are not 3 viable lanes really in the corners like Daytona and Talladega. This is a narrow racetrack, and it's, I think, even just a little bit more narrow than Daytona, a tighter corner radius. It's just difficult to actually make moves back here in the pack. You've really got to be on it from lap 1.
Absolutely, and with these Swift cars, at least looking at qualifying like they're not going to generate a lot of speed on themselves. If they're going to get to the front, they're going to need a run to really build up for maybe a massive checkup in lane, and maybe use a little bit of side drafting to their advantage. For what it's worth, as far as stage points are concerned, with the stages being at lap 45 and lap 101 this evening, plenty of time to work a strategy out to get to the front, but it is going to be difficult.
On board with Stutzman, looking back at the field, and maybe some contact there with Jennings. That was a little bit hairy out of turn 4. 4 laps in the books. That time St. Cour fastest on the racetrack, and you can see already these guys are moving around. It is very much a plate-style racetrack, a super speedway, where, yes, it's easy to make a lap on your own, But when these cars get moving around over the bumps, there's still a lot of character in the speedway. It gets tough. It can be tough to hang on to the car and actually race within inches of one another. And you can see that here. They are moving around, and especially with the higher air and track temps, it's going to be a rough day for these guys.
Absolutely. The track temp playing no favors. The track, even though it was repaved, still has some of those bumps underlined underneath. That does set these cars' balance off a little bit. And while these setup builders are very smart in the Outlaws Sim Series, tire wear is definitely going to be a factor this evening, especially as they run double wide, not able to give yourself breathing room on entry or exit. On the inside and the outside lane, we can see cars get very loose very quickly here on the hot, slick, and bumpy Atlanta Super Speedway.
A few stragglers in the back of the field kind of hanging out and just dropping back a little bit. One of those being Andrew St. Cyr in car 12. Wonder what kind of role he'll end up playing later in the race. But Rogers, Gardner, they're all back here just kind of waiting. So you're kind of looking at the top 12, 13 drivers that are really playing a role in this race. And those are the guys that are bunched up right now, side by side, row after row, as Stutzman and Jennings continue to trade off who leads what lap. That time it was Jennings across the line. And is there a lane, you think, Emerson, that is going to prevail over the course of a longer run?
It's tough to say, right? I think the outside lane is more comfortable, but being up there, it's much easier to lose right rear or get the left rear heated up, lose right rear grip, and you'll start to see the outside lane start to get loose and maybe start to intrude a little on the inside lane. That's where the inside lane could be a little bit of a factor, but right now you see the outside lane, it's easier to get lined up, just like you will see at Talladega Daytona. The outside lane usually gets to run down the straightaways. It's going to be hard to tell. I think both lanes have their advantages tonight.
Working on lap 9 currently, and this time Jennings the advantage into the third corner. McMahon with him. Byers up there as well. It's interesting to me that Service and Bailey, they're sticking in behind Jennings in that order with Simpson. I know there's not much of anywhere to go, and I know these guys are riding around, but it's just interesting the order of cars on both the bottom and top lines. The fact that Stutzman also has no playoff help at all right behind him. Even for the first, 3 cars behind him, they're non-playoff drivers right now. That's interesting.
That's right. So Jeremiah Stutzman, he's kind of lumped in with the last chance guys. He just kind of sits in that Discord. For what it's worth, he kind of were able to tell during interviews, not much of a talker. That's actually like his personality. He does not talk much during these races. He just likes to kind of let the race kind of play out by himself. He's more of a lone wolf, just kind of with that last chance racing affiliation, if you will. Same thing for Max, well, not Max Service as being a lone wolf, but his Swift Racing teammates are all at the back of the pack. His closest helper would be in that 5 car of Matthew Setzer, who's sitting in 8th. So both these guys, they're just trying to kind of let this race play out and see what kind of lines get what momentum, where can their teammates, their friends start working their way forward, and see how long it takes for the tires to become a factor.
On board with the number 81 currently. A couple of Chevrolets leading this bottom line. And actually, we've got 4 Chevrolets, it looks like, packed up on the bottom side of the racetrack. Maybe is that 5 or is that a Ford? No, that's a Ford back there. No, that is a Chevy with Reeves. You got 6 Chevys there on the bottom side, even back to Vincent Cortez, and then a bit more of a medley on the top side of the racetrack. I say that, but actually only 1 Ford for the first 6 cars, and then it's all Chevrolets behind that. But regardless, these guys finding their order quickly. Lap 13 of 225, and now you see Jonathan Jennings start to pull away. Emerson using a bit of a Pied Piper technique, almost out of turn 2 onto the backstretch. He almost moved up in front of Stutzman, and thought better of it.
Yeah, and you're starting to see right there off the corner, he jumps up, maybe gives a little draft to Stutzman, and now I think Jennings will play that role. He's going to jump from top to bottom lane. He's up on that top lane here, entering turn 1. I was going to say, I was starting to realize, or starting to notice, Stutzman was losing a little bit of grip. He's starting to lift a little bit more into the corners, and that's how Jennings got his advantage. Stutzman was able to lean on that quarter panel of Jennings and slow him down with the side draft, but he started to lose that ability, and now Jennings migrates to the top with Stutzman behind. It's starting to look like that top lane is becoming the strength. And
immediately, the bottom side falls off. Maxter, oh, sir, that sets her in the wall. Car 5, and we've got problems. There it is. The big wad up. 2 big-time drivers in the playoffs wadded up. Those are Fitzpatrick and Schumacher. Big-time drama on only lap 15. That's Gardner across the racetrack.
And it does not look good for Adrian Schumacher. I think he's got some suspension damage. So Schumacher has got to hope that is not 8 minutes and 20 seconds worth of suspension damage, or his season is going to be very much reliant on a great run next week. And Fitzpatrick, his car looks all banged up. I think he may have escaped suspension damage, though.
And well, there's suspension damage, but he doesn't have any broken toe links. That's the big point. But I mean, you're absolutely right. It looks bad for Schumacher right now. The left front, you can see hardly connected at all. The left rear might not even be fully connected right now. It is a bad situation for the 82 camp. And it all started with Setzer getting up into the outside wall. Let's go back and get a look at this one. They were humming along nicely, and I'm not really sure what happened yet, but that's why we have the advent of instant replay. Let's take a look at this. With car 5 on the outside lane, he was 4th, 5th in line, and into turn 1. The car sets up the racetrack and into the wall. Fitzpatrick first on the scene, and it's on from there.
I'm gonna assume, I think Setzer took turn 1, the entry to turn 1 like that, because he was starting to feel the lack of grip in the rear tires. He felt like he was going to get loose and had to kind of take a wider line into the corner to kind of negate how loose the car got there, and got in the wall.
Went straight.
Yeah.
That's the big hit. That's the big hit for Schumacher. When Fitzpatrick, of all people to have hit him right there, Fitzpatrick came off the racetrack while he was spinning, and everybody was along for the ride. This is going to be really difficult for some of these guys to swallow. Let's get one more look at this. This will be from the onboard of Seth Fitzpatrick. And he was right behind Matthew Setzer with Schumacher right behind. And, you know, the storyline with these guys particularly is that Fitzpatrick and Schumacher enter the day 1 point apart. Fitzpatrick with the advantage, Schumacher 1 point out. And
they were on a cut line.
Yeah, right on the cut line. They are 4th and 5th coming into this afternoon. And oh boy, the storyline is definitely there for today.
All of a sudden, Andrew, Schumacher looks like might have left the set. No, he's still in the session. But it doesn't look good. Adrian having to wait that out. But all of a sudden, with those two guys struggling, and Fitzpatrick is going to get away, try to send a lead lap. But if Adrian and Seth have both bad point stays, that then opens the door for Reeves, Stutzman, and Bailey if we do not get a playoff winner to lock in today.
Even if it is a playoff winner, if it's somebody, you know, 1st or 2nd in points, even 3rd, that's going to help them. And really, they're just, I mean, they're all licking their chops at this point because they have that extra opportunity. 2 drivers, not just one, but 2 drivers that they needed to have trouble, just had trouble on lap 15 of 225. And you talked about Jennings might only be out of this if he had an early crash. Well, that early crash was just transferred over to Fitzpatrick and Schumacher. Big time issues for those guys. And, you know, it comes down to stage points. Right now, you see Stutzman 2nd in the line right now. Very much, I think stage points are on his way. Granted, there's still 30 laps to go or so in the stage. If he gets that first 10, it nearly cuts the deficit in half. Certainly nearly cuts it by a 1/3, down to 2/3 of what it is. It's going to be huge, the impact, I think. And I don't know how roadworthy the 2 car is now. Certainly the 82 still in the pit lane, but he's got to keep fighting. He has got to stay in this race and get all that he can get.
We saw it last week when Stutzman got suspension damage. He sat on pit lane under a green, got it repaired, came back out and slugged it out, grabbed the scraps he could. And Adrian's probably going to have to do the same today. It's going to be tougher at a super speedway.
Into the restart zone. And, it was a bit of a late fire, but they do get off and away. We are restarted here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jennings with a big-time advantage for turn 1. And just like that, the field much, much different. It looks different. It is different. The dynamic has changed, and tires are old as they get them back up to temperature. The first lap will go complete off of the first restart of the night, Emerson, and it's side by side for the race lead. We talk about these guys being comfortable, and boy, are they comfortable making these moves.
Stutzman jumps out to the lead. Service tried to follow, seeing that, well, his help that was coming just wrecked out in that wreck as well. Two of his teammates now. Service leads the outside lane. Stutzman leads the race, and Service with a run, but no help directly behind.
Max gets out there and has to drop back now as there's no help from McMahon. Byers on the bottom side, third in line. He even hangs back a little bit off the top two of Stutzman and Jennings. You see Berger in line on the bottom side, Bailey as well. And Fitzpatrick, I'm not so sure about that car, Emerson. He's got Andrew St. Cyr helping him right now, but there's just no speed to be had.
It looks hurt, and he's probably going to be flat foot for a while if he can get any sniff of a stronger draft or St. Cyr's able to close up to the rear bumper. But even then, it is looking grim, and Fitzpatrick just lost that 1 second threshold. Here goes St. Cyr.
St. Cyr goes on by, or at least is trying to go on by in turn one, and yes, he finally does. And Seth Fitzpatrick drops into the 13th position. No draft. Well, there is the draft from St. Cyr, but not to the lead group anyways. That's going to be tough for Fitzpatrick to swallow. But he may be able to get more repairs done later in the race. May be able to get that car at least a little more pack-worthy and be able to hang on for the tail end and get some points out of this at any rate. But battle for third, it's on. Byers inside, Service outside, and make that now the battle for second as Byers pulls up to the inside of Jonathan Jennings. Last week it was Vincent Cortez who played spoiler. Well, he's moving into the group, but how about the 94 on the inside?
Yeah, Byers has been an intriguing character since he joined the Outlaws Sim Series. Unfortunately, the results have kind of really fluctuated this season. But what better opportunity to maybe get your first win than here at Atlanta, seeing that you have a bunch of teammates around you in that last chance camp, a lot of support to do it. If you're able to, why not Matthew Byers?
You see the orange banners behind him, Berger, Service, and so many others.
Berger now to that fourth position behind Matthew Byers. That inside lane is now drawing even. We'll see if they can hold on here, but we saw the outside lane with Jennings and Stutzman start to pull or start to get their advantage.
That was a photo finish across the line, elite lap 24. I think Stutzman got it, but just barely. And Byers really has something on the bottom side with Berger helping him. They are quick.
Yeah, this inside lane, they're showing a lot of strength here. It was a little intriguing that Service was not able to lead an inside lane charge, but right now, here they come. Berger and Cortez, they're second and third on the inside lane. And even Gardner there is the fourth on the inside. He's falling a little ways back there, though, of the top three on that inside.
Well, let's not forget, Adam Gardner was a big part of that crash about 10 laps ago. He was spun across the racetrack, but he got away mostly scot-free as far as, impactful damage. So his car is still pretty okay, and clearly is hanging on to the lead group and still making some moves within it as he runs in the 8th position on the inside line. But back up front, it's Stutzman and Byers on the front row. And it's weird, though. We've got 180-mile-an-hour pace laps right now as Byers, I think, led that lap that time by. But he's loose in the center of 1 and 2. The big bobble down to that white and red line.
And that is always going to be something that the drivers in the middle of the pack will start to visibly cringe about, because you see that car get loose there inside, leading the inside lane. If he gets loose and spins into the pack, it is over for a lot of those guys. So everybody trying to give room and be smart about it, but when you're all packed up like this, there's not a whole lot you can do.
I love this camera angle for Super Speedways, Emerson. You've got the view out the windshield from within the cockpit. You can see the bars and hoses and everything, but you can also look up at the top of the screen and see the virtual mirror that these drivers can now utilize in these next-gen cars, and you can see what's going on in front and behind of Max Service right now as he runs in the 5th position. This is a perfect example of what it's like to drive one of these things, at least what it looks like visually.
Oh my goodness. When we got the NextGen cars, Andrew, on iRacing, and we got into super speed races, that virtual mirror was a lifesaver, especially if you were leading a line or if you were trying to, you know, play the Pied Piper role and try to jump from lane to lane. The in-car mirror in the Gen 6 car, you could not see that clearly over the spoiler like that, and then the spoilers were, I mean, almost a foot tall. They were large at that. This being on the roof, the back end of the roof, and you're able to see over that spoiler, see kind of the runs. If your FOV set right and, you know, if your graphics setting set right, that virtual mirror has been an absolute game changer at super speedways.
Still riding on board here with Max Service. You see the telemetry on the bottom right of the screen. All while he fights on the 3rd position on the top side of the racetrack. Outside of Vinny Cortez, so some of his teammates around him with Seth Berger there as well. And fighting the guys up front in Stutzman, Jennings, and Byers.
We're starting to see Afe on back kind of give a little breathing room to the top 7. But they're still very much in it. You know, with only 12 cars in this lead pack, unfortunately, St. Court got stuck behind Fitzpatrick, and he actually lost a little to us. Actually, that's 11 cars in this lead pack. No need to keep everybody so compact. Service looking to drop from the top to the bottom, and he does. Now leave the 2 cars on the outside lane, and Stutzman and Jennings.
Oh, so close that time between Byers and Stutzman. They stay close out of turn 2. Gardner a little bit bobbly back there, but hangs on to the race car. We continue on. Yes, it's still Matthew Byers on the inside in turn 3 this time. This will look back from Byers' car.
You see Berger there. He is, yes, he's still behind Byers, but he's not as close to the rear bumper anymore. He's not applying that pressure to the rear end. He's not forcing Byers to be 100% and getting him squirrely and all, giving Byers breathing room to kind of just run his race. Right now, Andrew, we're now 16 laps into this stint on tires, albeit a few of those were pace laps. So we're getting to that point where Matthew Setzer started to struggle here in about 3 or 4 laps here. So these drivers very anxious, I'd imagine very cautious in the coming laps here to see if everybody's able to hold on to what they've got.
Yeah, everybody did pit under that caution flag. Everybody is, I said earlier they were on old tires. They were on new tires, so cold tires coming up to temperature. But regardless, everybody's got a new set of tires on them, it seems, certainly at least fuel. And you can see that time McMahon up the racetrack. Grip is starting to go away from these guys in the center of the corner. They're moving all around on the front stretch as well. This is going to get some, I think this is going to be pretty treacherous here in a second.
Absolutely. It looked like Byers got a little tight there and almost into Stutzman. That could have spelt a lot of trouble as well. And looking at it, McMahon has closed the gap to Jennings, so the outside lane is still trying to get something rolling, and as Byers continues to struggle with grip, I wonder if that inside lane is going to start to back off and give more space.
Whoa!
Oh, sideways to Stutzman!
They're all struggling. Stutzman all over the place at a turn 4. Jennings looks to the outside, but he will not go there just yet. Cortez pulls up, and man, if I'm anybody that is in the playoffs right now, I'm seeing this, and I'd be backing out. I'd be off the throttle, trying to get out of this situation up front. This is really, really crazy at this point. Everybody's struggling for grip.
Oh, Stutzman now checking up. Byers jumps up to the high side, gives Swift their clear weight on the inside lane. And now Stutzman, I think Jennings is desperately trying to find a way by, but doesn't have the run or the help to find a way by Stutzman.
On board at Stutzman, another bobble. You can see Jennings in service behind him. Bobble there. Call the man a bobblehead because he is all over the place now. Drops down to the inside. Out of the wake of Matthew Byers. Up the racetrack he goes, though, in the center of the corner. It sets, and the car just takes off on him, and then he gets loose again up out of the corner.
Andrew, I think with this track temp, and we're still packed up, and I think we're going to be relatively packed up, but we may see this pack even get a little spread out just because it looks like everybody is struggling for tire grip. And all of a sudden, Andrew, you make that also, you point back in qualifying where Swift Racing was looking for stability in the cars.
They found it.
Doesn't look half bad right now.
Yeah, it's a matter of if they have speed on the short run. I think you're still going to see gaps be grown if we continue this kind of, if we actually get going green flag. I don't know, we'll see. Clearly they've got stability long run, and that is working for them, but I'm still concerned that maybe in a single car kind of situation, Jennings and those guys can pull away. But it's working now, I will say, for Berger, and look at that bobble that time from Jennings. 3 wide down the backstretch, and finally the 71 has to just give up the goose as he lifts even more into turn 3. He knows he's in the sucker hole, backs out, and he falls all the way back to 9th place. So also Emerson, other storyline here, where he was slated to gain all those points at the stage, he's now slated to gain 1.
I was just about to mention that, Andrew. We are 6 laps away from the conclusion of stage 1. And boy, that would have been a nice payday of points. All of a sudden, he's on the back foot, struggling for grip. Doesn't even know if he has the confidence to try to move forward in this pack. But all that being said, I think the aggression is going to be intriguing to see if it ramps up here because everybody's struggling for grip.
Oh, Simpson in the fence. And there goes Stutzman on by. Simpson on the wall. He loses all those spots back to 11th, and he might even start to lose the draft. While Stutzman loses check with some of the drivers out front, falls in behind Bailey, now single file back here. What a weird turn this race is starting to take, as that's the 91 out front. Byers almost in the fence that time at a turn 2. They're side by side for second. Berger on the inside.
Now imagine, Andrew, the old Atlanta where you were always talking about tires and trying to keep the car glued to the bottom and trying to make sure you don't hit the bump the wrong way. Now put all those cars in a pack, and that's looking like what we've got here.
Yeah, it's about like when the Gen say, oh, and there's actually, real quick, there is Adrian Schumacher back on the racetrack finally, 25 laps down. Boy, that is killer, but he might be able to get some of these spots back. The way these guys look right now, the way they're moving all over the racetrack, he might get those spots right back. We'll see. But you're right. This looks like they're struggling with grip just like old Atlanta. It's just in a very different way, a very different setting, and I think a lot more high stakes.
Absolutely. Again, I think it's phenomenal. I think the Outlaws drivers right here are showing the kind of skill that they have to hold on to these things. Because I feel like if I were in that pack right now, I would have caused the big one by now. I mean, this is tough. Very difficult conditions out here, and they're hanging on to it, and they packed up. They packed up again.
Andrew St. Cyr, fresh off the pit lane, is just ahead of these guys with the next lap car they get to. Fitzpatrick is 19 seconds away from the race lead. I just noticed the 91. He was tracking sideways for a second. Jennings in the middle of the corner, and there it goes. The 56. Gardner to the inside wall. Did he make contact? Yes. And the left front is gone.
Oh, that one's going to hurt Adam. I know he is still feeling the sting from losing Daytona on a last corner kind of a move by his teammate, and now he's going to fall out of this race here at Atlanta with suspension damage. And we're on the final lap of the stage, Andrew.
Yeah, right back up front. Here we go. The battle for the stage win. It's Jennings out front, Berger second, Byers third as they head down the back straightaway here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And into turn number 3. Now Byers into the second spot. Can he make a run for it from the outside lane? We're going to see as Jennings is all over the place. McMahon as well. They're sliding and maybe crashing in the back. But Jennings is going to win stage 1. Berger second. The next playoff car is Max Service. And back here, they were all over the place, but it looks like Stutzman is going to take a fresh 3-point payday. That's not much, but it's at least a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, Jeremiah Stutzman ended up coming with 9th and Scott Bailey 10th there. Those were the 5 playoff drivers that then got stage points. Fitzpatrick and Schumacher not getting stage points, and Reeves. Where's Jacob Reeves?
He's in the 5th spot. So
Reeves
he just got by the 81. So he was 6th, I believe, at the end of the stage. So decent points for Jacob, as he and Max both bobble. They are both sideways at a turn 2 that time. This is getting scary.
I think the field just, all of a sudden, you hit the end of lap 45, and now we have a mostly single file field here. So that was the aggression from the stage. And they're still very much racing, and I think Swift is still trying to work their way forward, at least with Berger and Cortez. Maybe trying to cycle service back forward. Byers drops down, and now Jennings is all by himself on the high side.
And you can see the pack is kind of reforming a little bit from the overhead blimp view, but now the outside line gets help from Berger, Cortez, McMahon, and Stutzman. Byers left alone on the bottom side, and McMahon up the racetrack, nearly gets the fence. Oh, man, I don't know where I want to go right now because it seems like the car, every single time into the corner, it doesn't matter who it is. Some are affected more than others, I think, but everybody, when they get into the corner, the car just wants to go up the racetrack at center and then come back down, almost diamonding the corner off. Just seems like when it sets, it's long for a ride.
Oh, Andrew, what I would do for a heart rate monitor of a playoff driver in this pack right now. Oh, man, that would be a lot of fun to watch.
Berger's coming up on the lead here with Jennings. Do you think Seth is going to fight, or do you think he's just going to sit in behind Jonathan right now?
Well, Cortez wants to fight, so he drops down without Seth. And we saw a lot of this at Talladega. Cortez, yes, he's in that Swift Racing camp. Yes, he wants to work with them. But when it comes down to it, if he sees his chance to go forward, he's going to leave it too. And now he gets Seth down in line. So I guess the answer to that is they are going to fight.
Side by side, Berger on the inside, and is he going to have the lead at the start-finish line this time? The answer is yes. Just barely over Jennings as he gets help now from Vincent Cortez, so move Berger squarely into the race lead as he starts to pull away a little bit. The battle then on for second, third, fourth, and so on.
And actually, I'm shocked to see the pack is still kind of repacking back up. We're still grouping back up, even with all the struggling for grip. Everybody is still very much, we're going to continue racing. And I guess that's what it's got to take here in the playoffs. You can't just quit racing. You have to race it all out. And Jennings holds the top spot on board with Reeves here, trying to work to the inside of Hunter Simpson.
Well, they've got to keep racing for sure, just on a simple fact of they've got to get to the end of this state. They've got to get to the end of this fuel run. They've got to keep going on, and they can't wait, especially guys in the back that are trying to race for playoff points, or I guess stage points in the playoffs. And, Matthew Byers, trouble. In the wall big time that time through turns 3 and 4. And it looks like he did not damage the tie rod, or the toe link. There we go, but he did get in the fence pretty good.
Yeah, that's a huge loss of momentum. He loses the draft, and Jennings kind of shuffled out of line. Berger and Cortez pushing forward, trying to get both of them clear. Berger is, Cortez nearly.
And how does it look from McMahon's perspective? This is the top 3 right in front of him. Berger comes up the racetrack a little bit out of 4. Now Stutzman fires on by. Here comes Stutzman right back into the battle, just about 10 laps too late.
Yeah, Stutzman trying to regain what he lost there at the stage. Unfortunately, he did get caught out there coming to the stage finish and fell back to the 9th position, but is seeing if he can kind of restake a claim up at the front of the pack, maybe be a mainstay up here, maybe through a pit cycle or two. McMahon struggling for grip on that inside, way up the track, nearly trekking into the door to 71.
Love that view across the start-finish line. Shows you just how fast these guys are going. I mean, they are still trying to pin it as much as they can. Speeds still in excess of 165 miles per hour at the center of the corner, up to 180 before they lift for turn 3.
And that's right, Andrew. I'm watching the speeds now. They are very much lifting. They're lifting big time into these corners. Now, you obviously, with the struggles for grip, they're not able to just flat-foot it. But it's crazy to see the super speed with a pack racing formation, but the CD drivers lift so much into these corners. And here's Schumacher, now a part of this pack. He's 13 laps off of Adam Gardner. That'll be the first scrap he picks up, but he's still 25 laps off the pace and hoping, unfortunately, for some drivers to get caught up in some trouble here.
Well, he's in luck that St. Cora seems to be having a pretty bad day. Of course, he was caught up in that crash and is 2 laps down and recently pit. But Fitzpatrick has been trucking, and actually Fitzpatrick is due to be lapped here in the next 5 to 10 laps. He's only 3 seconds ahead of these guys. And the good news for Fitzpatrick is he's able to just do things on his own accord. He's not having to worry about cars around him. So even if he's struggling for grip, he can lay in the throttle a little bit more and use more of the racetrack for now. So he's running a little bit better lap times comparatively, if you will. But, oh, I saw the 15 in the wall that time. Simpson catching the green fence at a turn 4. I know it's not Fenway Park, Emerson, but the wall today has got to feel a bit like the Green Monster for these guys.
Certainly. But I guess there at Fenway, you're trying to get the ball over the fence, and here you don't want to go over that green wall.
No, we're not trying to Brad Keselowski anything from 12 years ago. We don't want to send a car over the wall here.
Yeah, we want to keep this one inside the park very much, and Simpson catches the wall again. But with the way that wall is there off of 4, he hit it pretty flush, didn't lose any momentum. I'm not saying you want to hit it, but I think that one was no harm, no foul.
Here's a look at him, and you can see no damage on the left side. It's a matter of the right side, so not a great view for it here, but I don't think he really got the wall too hard either time as far as damage goes. He certainly seemed to have hit it pretty hard, but composite bodies these days, man, they can hold up quite nicely, and even that time on a turn 4, bobbles up the racetrack, but limited damage, certainly, for Hunter Simpson as he continues on to the 7th or 8th position or so, depending on the moment, as these guys continue to go back and forth. This is lap 60 of 225. In stage 2, let's see, it ends at the completion of lap 101, right?
Yes, it does.
So we've got a pit stop coming up, and I think really we've got to start doing some math. I actually don't know how long these guys can race for running so wide open, but we are at 43 laps complete that time by the stripe. I can't imagine we have more than maybe 10 or maybe 15 laps left.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I think we can work close to 60 laps on fuel. I know for sure 75% of a fuel tank is about 50 laps, and maybe 65 laps. But do you want to go that long on fuel? Can your tires make it that long? These guys that came into today's race with 8 extra sets of tires, Andrew, and are we going to see a super speedway race where tires maybe dictate the strategy more than fuel?
You know, of course, NASCAR's issue this season tended to be tire life. I don't know that we're going to see tires failing. I think that was, a big issue at Atlanta in the spring, of course, and some of other racetracks this season. But I don't know that we're going to see tires failing today, but we're certainly going to see tires at the edge of their grip late in a run as they come up on Seth Fitzpatrick here. And Seth is going to have to give up. And oh, man, Jennings that time at a turn 4 all over the place. And even had help a little bit from Stutzman as Fitzpatrick is going to hold on the bottom side. This is really going to constrict everything. This could be a little scary.
A blessing in disguise for Seth Berger, but everyone else scatters to avoid the slow car. And another big hit there to the rear end. Stutzman to the back end of Jennings. Jennings throttles it up, entering 3, and it's back side by side with Seth Berger.
Jennings will have the race lead that time at a turn number 4, but Cortez comes to Berger's aid. Stutzman up top, helping the 91. Reeves back in this fight. Here comes McMahon. Here comes Service. Even Simpson. And quickly, the field dispatches of the 2 car of Fitzpatrick, and they will continue on down the backstretch this time. Lap 64 now underway. Berger on the inside. Can he power back to the race lead? We'll see.
He's got it on entry. It's about holding it on exit, not using up too much of the right rear, but off the corner, Jennings gets the run. Cortez right back to the rear bumper of Berger, but not in time. Jennings leads the lap there, starting lap 65.
This is so nerve-wracking. They've been green flagged now for nearly 50 laps of racing. Call it 45, I think. This is impressive, I will say, but nerve-wracking. Every single time they go off into another corner, every single time they go through center and exit. Even the front stretch is starting to get scary for these guys. We've seen them move all around. Jennings a couple of times has been all over the place. These cars are getting evil.
Yeah, these cars are getting evil. They are pretty evil once you get anything more than 10 or 12 laps on them here. And we've seen it's caught out a lot of drivers. Unfortunately, caught out Matthew Setzer. It's caught out Adam Gardner. It's caught out Stutzman a couple of times, but he's been able to catch it. And we continue to see it go on. I think now these drivers are starting to get into a rhythm here, even with the depleted tire grip. We're still able to see these guys race it on and race the rest of these laps out, even though they are slipping and sliding through the whole corner. And right now it just hit 2 o'clock in Sim, Andrew. The track temp has gone up now, so it is not doing any favors for these guys.
And there's a big bump at a turn, too. You saw every car settle that time out of the corner. The way this track was paved, it's just got a big bump over there. Oh, Jennings way up the racetrack. You know what? I wouldn't rule out a tire failure or two, depending on how far these guys have pushed cambers and what adjustments they may have made. Who knows if they were expecting 136 degrees track temp. I mean, I'm sure they would have practiced at a time or two just to, confirm viability, but I don't know that anybody expected these kinds of temps, as Berger now has the race lead on the back straightaway.
Berger with no help, not able to block the run Jennings had. Jennings back alongside, has some more consistent help there in Stutzman. Cortez trying to get to Berger, not able to. Jennings struggles for grip up high, but back to the stripe, and looks like Stutzman and Jennings have gone into their rhythm up on the highest side. McMahon keeps Stutzman in it as well, and Berger and Cortez looks like they're still trying to figure things out.
Down on the back straightaway, side by side still. Two very distinct lines, all race long so far.
And we saw right before the first caution, Andrew, the outside lane started to prevail with Jennings and Stutzman. And that was with Max Service leading the inside lane, and Byers, who we saw had a lot of speed on that inside lane in the second run. They were able to keep the speed up this time around. I don't know if Jennings and Stutzman are pushing less, or the inside lane figured things out this time, but that time the outside lane has a huge advantage. It's Stutzman to the outside of Jennings.
I wonder if they're communicating. I wonder if that's a ploy to try and control both lines.
That may be it, and kind of shut down any advances from Swift Racing. And, that's a last chance racing car there. Second car on the outside lane, third car on the outside lane behind Stutzman, and fourth car on the outside. That outside lane now is starting to look, it is all last chance racing up there. And now Jennings kind of slams the door to the inside lane. Oh, we got a car lagging, and Jennings drops that down to the apron.
Very confusing there, but he must feel like the tires are going way on that car as, man, he pulls way down, and I mean, everything looks okay on the car. I wonder if that was maybe a matter of connection as well. Doesn't want to potentially be involved in something. Very interesting. He also could just be pulling back for, an easy pit entry. I think these guys, they quickly got single file. I think this lap or the next lap, we might start seeing these guys pit. And there goes Stutzman down to the bottom side. He falls back.
Now, Stutzman dropping that one's surprising, unless they are truly struggling for grip. Jennings, that makes sense. He's so far above the cut line. He got stage points. Just go clean in, clean out. Don't get into a wreck. Stutzman, that one is a little bit of a shock. They relinquish control to the Swift Racing duo and Berger and Cortez with Service in fourth. And all of a sudden, we are very strung out. I'd imagine pit stops in the next 5 laps or so, but intriguing moves there.
Very intriguing as they work on the back straightaway. There are a couple of cars linked up further back. I believe those are St. Cyr and Fitzpatrick, potentially. No, I think that's Gardner and Fitzpatrick. Yes, it is, at the back end of the field. McMahon still up the racetrack. No pitters that time, but it's got to be coming soon. I mean, that's 56 laps now complete, on to 57. I can't imagine they can go much further than this.
Yeah, I think 10 laps tops is the longest we'll see these guys go, especially with the way tires have been. But I think that is the end of the field run there as well. And then also, pitting here, Andrew, you pit from a very high rate of speed, and you leave the racetrack to the apron in the middle of the corner. It is so treacherous to get on a pit lane with fresh tires.
You can see a bit of that pit entry there. It's not good. So it'll be a challenge for each one of these drivers. Still 10 cars on the lead lap as Byer starts working the outside of Simpson. Here comes Jacob Reeves as well, all over the back end of Cortez, and he fights the inside maybe. Now he relinquishes that spot into the third corner.
Might have been Reeves attempting to break up the Swift Racing duo up here. But of course, Berger would just go up and grab Vincent and make sure to keep giving him draft, get him cleared back down to lead this line. And we now just anxiously await pit stops. That with the way these guys have been racing, I don't think they just wanted to go single file. I'd imagine that there was some strategy element to this. And now it looks like Swift Racing trying to go up and try to grab Max, but here comes Byers instead.
Byers interrupting that whole operation as Berger's at the racetrack, Cortez as well. Not necessarily team orders, but teamwork certainly at play. As here comes Stutzman firing right back up here. Nearly got the fence there into turn one, but he is on a mission all of a sudden. I wonder, Emerson, if this is Stutzman. I'm not sure about Jennings, considering he's still back there, but is Stutzman trying to race a little bit right now? Feel out the outer bounds of that car, trying to race people? I don't know what else is going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure, other than maybe Jennings just didn't want to, or I'm sorry, Stutzman didn't want to leave Jennings and went back there to help him, and then Jennings kind of just gave him the green light to, keep going, go on and race. And Stutzman, maybe this is a little bit of a practice. If you end up in the back of the lead pack late in the race,
that's what I'm thinking.
Can you move forward?
That's what I'm thinking for sure, especially if we're on old tires. And man, I got to see how long these guys can go before doing any math and being able to work this race backwards. But if they can go 60 laps, they have certainly just about gone at this point, as Byers takes over control of the race. 60 laps from 225, that puts the last pit at about 165, so 105. They're going to be a little bit short anyways. I don't know why they're running so long, actually.
The only reason I'd imagine you run long is because you fear, especially here in Atlanta being much shorter track lane, you fear going a lap down here and getting caught up by a yellow. It's especially if you're not able to get organized with a group. I'd imagine here, being the two big orgs of Swift and Last Chance, they will pit together no matter what. Unless there's some sort of massive incident trying to get the pit road and one of them has to stay out.
Well, hear me out. Tire fall off right now is about 2 seconds. And we've seen just how treacherous things have been. Obviously, these guys are waiting to pit in a group, and they're getting in order. But with the tire fall off being about 2 seconds, as treacherous as things have been, obviously now they're single file starting to run a little bit faster. But this is just an interesting call by the entire field, really, not to try something different. I feel like they're at least about 15 laps short, 10 to 15 laps, and you're not going to save that in this kind of race. Obviously, a caution would change things. You've got to pit before the end of the stage regardless. That is guaranteed. You have to pit before the end of this stage. It's intriguing that nobody has pit yet, aside from St. Cor 38 laps ago. It's just intriguing, and I really do wonder where this race goes from here. I wonder what these guys are figuring as far as their fuel number, tire number, and everything else. But you could save some tire life, save a little bit of speed, and save certainly a lot of chaos, it feels like, within the car if you pit sooner and don't run so far on these tires. But these guys have a plan, and I'm interested to see how it works out. Well, here we go.
Looks
Hitters,
like, yes, here comes Last Chance. They were all slowing down. Reeves!
All over the place. And he's got a cone. That's going to be a penalty, I think.
It will be for sure.
Big problems.
That is tough. And that cone has now made a living inside of that right front wheel well. And doesn't have any trouble stopping. These guys, they are sliding into their boxes, but it looks like they're not sliding through them. Everybody stops in their marks. Here comes the Swift Racing boys, and they are crawling on the pit road.
Everybody coming in together, though, or at least as close as together as they can be. Jennings, he's late to pull away, follows Stutzman onto the racetrack. Bailey will follow Stutzman, actually. Simpson then. Reeves falling way back, of course. He's got that penalty we were just talking about. And I think unless we get a caution, you can write the 22 car out of the race win or any stage points. And Byers! He was in the entire wrong pit stall.
And Cortez just stopped in his stall right now. He had trouble as well. And I was just about to say, Andrew, the Last Chance Racing, they short pitted Swift by 1 lap. Plus, Swift is now broken up with just Service and Berger coming out together. They might lose the lead draft here.
Berger onto the racetrack. Where is the... well, here comes Stutzman in third place. He is on his own. Bailey has Simpson and Jennings. So the leader should still be Berger, I think. Berger and Service will be able to work this. Stutzman may go by for a moment, but he's a single car right now. And yeah, he pulls up and he's actually lifting, coming up to Berger and Service. So the 77 will still be leading this race as we get back into some kind of semblance of organization. There's a lot happening. And just now is Byers is still, now he leaves the pit lane 55.8 seconds in his box.
Speeding. That is speeding. Because speeding is a 40-second hold inside the box plus the 15 seconds of service.
And it got a lot worse, by the way, for Jacob Reeves. 1 minute and 24 seconds. That was not only speeding, that had to have been an unsafe entry, which is not surprising. It was an unsafe entry for sure as he picked up the cone on his way in. That is 2 laps on the racetrack.
So huge differences there. Cortez loses the lead pack. He's 11 seconds off with no draft help. McMahon not in the lead draft. St. Cor back on lead lap, but for how long? Because he's out there without any help, and he has to pit at a different lap than these guys. So we're working with a 6-car consistent lead pack here.
In the end of stage 1, or stage 2 rather, which will not give us a caution, by the way, in case you're new to the Outlaws Sim Series, the end of stage 2 will come at the completion of lap 101. So we're about 14 laps away from that mark. And that's where points will be paid all the way up, interestingly enough, to Fitzpatrick currently in the 10th position, 1 lap down, as he is a part of this lead group, despite being lapped and working recently with Adam Gardner. And if you're just joining us or joining us more recently, certainly joining us late, there was an early crash on lap 15 that involved Seth Fitzpatrick, Adam Gardner, Matthew Setzer, and very importantly, I think most importantly, Adrian Schumacher, who is 23 laps down. This man had no left front on his car, and actually it looks like he might be coming into pit. He's got problems in the 82, or actually he's just letting those guys go by, but he's going to spin on the inside of 3 and 4. And Adrian is turning things into a bit of a joker lap, and he just might come in this time. Yes, he does.
Yeah, being the road racer Adrian is, I'm sure he would have liked the layout like that, but that is not the intended layout this evening. But yeah, you know what I'm looking at here, and he's not. Oh well, it just changed because I was gonna say he's not a playoff driver, but he might get stage points. And Andrew St. Cor, but he's now, I'd imagine, hitting the pit lane. I was gonna say he just weaseled his way into the top 10, and he still had another 20 laps to that lap 65 mark.
Well, now that we know about how far these guys can go, call it 65 laps. Backing up from 225, 65 laps puts them at what, 160 instead of 165? Another 65 back from that would be 95. So these guys still have an extra pit stop in there to play around with. I don't know that the best strategy, if you have teammates to work with, is going the full distance on fuel. Now, of course, one reason to do that is in case there's a caution at any point, you can benefit and pit under that caution or not have pitted already when the caution comes out. But I still think, especially given the field size, we're looking at, what, 6 cars in this lead group that are racing for position, 2 extras that are hanging on that'll have to pit very soon. I'll say very soon, within the next 50 laps. I still think the best play is to pit early for some of these guys. For Swift Racing, potentially. They've got some guys working together, of course. Vinny is on his own deal right now, but even just Seth Berger and Max Service, they can pit on their own early and not have to run so much on those old, torn-up tires. But also, their cars seem to be the best in the long runs. Maybe it's the other guys that come on in early. I don't know.
And that's an intriguing play, Andrew. You're right. We've seen them kind of struggle with their, single car short run pace. In the pack, we saw Swift Racing kind of excel with that stability that Max built into that setup. But right now, they're outnumbered. It is 4-2 in Last Chance Racing's favor in this lead pack, and Last Chance has 2 lap cars to help out with them for as long as they can stay out of here. So effectively 6-2 in the favor of Last Chance Racing in this lead pack. Swift Racing, they'd have to do something different. The only thing I caution if they short pit is first of all, can both Max and Seth have a clean in and clean out entirely entry to pit exit cone? And will they be able to keep the same? Will they be able to make up that time with 2 cars versus 4 or 6?
That's an intriguing question. Keeping that time is definitely an intriguing question, but if your concern is numbers, you're starting to get to the point where it's swift rate. Like it's even numbers almost between the two teams, especially if a driver falls out of that Jennings, Bailey, Stutzman group with even Simpson there. If Simpson makes a mistake, for example, or anybody else makes a mistake there, you're almost on even footing. And it seems like with fall off, the better play is going to be to pit a little bit earlier and, not tear the tires up, not run so much risk of crashing, as these guys will pass McMahon, who must have had a penalty on his stop or something happen. The pit lane time is long. Must have just missed his box by a whole large margin.
And Andrew, I can't say I expected all that to happen on pit stops, but we've seen trouble pitting at super speedways traditionally with Talladega and Daytona, where you pit from the straightaway. I mean, we're pitting off the corner here, old tires, cars sliding through boxes, trouble getting down to pit road speed. I mean, I guess the writing was just on the wall that we were going to have a massive mess of pit stops.
Well, there's also that to consider, Emerson. If you pit earlier, you're on better tires, so you might not have as much trouble coming into the box. I don't know. These guys have an extra pit stop to make up regardless, and unless they're going to start clutching in the corners, which is not going to happen, it's interesting. I don't know what their play is, if they just want to take a short run at some point, but obviously they have some kind of plan. I keep saying that, because every time I think I might have it down or I might have an idea, they seem to disprove that and do something entirely different, so I'm sure that'll happen again tonight. But McMahon, by the way, is he in that group with Stutzman and Jennings?
Yeah, pretty much everybody that isn't Cortez, Berger, Service, Schumacher, and Setzer, who left the race. So pretty much everybody outside of that 4 is last chance.
Yeah, it's clear that the 20 is last chance right now. He's down in front of Berger and Service and is giving them no way to get on by. This could also play out to be helpful, very, very helpful for the 71 to get him more laps led. Is there a bonus point for most laps led?
There is a bonus point for most laps led, and Stutzman is right now in line for that. Maybe that was part of the reason why Jennings dropped and separated, was while Jennings and Stutzman were working together, Stutzman was content riding in second, and Jennings wanted Stutzman to stay up there, and that's probably why Stutzman re-rose to the front. Now Stutzman clears in front of Berger and Service, but the rest of Last Chance Racing kind of shuffling each other out behind.
Scott Bailey had a big moment out of turn 4 and had to really gather that car up. Thankfully he did, but for a moment there it did not look good to be car 11, and now here comes Berger to the inside of the 71, and I think quickly you're going to watch Swift Racing take over control out front once again, certainly at least by the virtue of Seth Berger. Can Service follow suit? Oh, Jennings all over the place for a moment, thankfully hangs on.
And that's Stutzman that was sideways up.
Sorry.
But Berger has now left Max Service as Stutzman was side drafting Service. Now Stutzman jumps out, and Andrew, we're coming around a lap and a half left in stage 2.
Oh, contact! Out front, Berger and Stutzman. Stutzman continues on, Berger as well. We stay green. Does Berger have damage? At least, yeah. Yep, that's a toe link. Done. That is huge.
That is massive. Berger, he was above the cut line. He had a good point margin above the cut line, but importantly, he's going to fall out of stage points, I believe.
This is huge. He's going to be down around that cut line, if not worse.
That is tough for Seth Berger to swallow. Stutzman somehow avoids massive damage and is still in the lead pack. There is damage to the right front. They race on, and the race for the stage went a little lackluster, but Jonathan Jennings will win the stage.
Jennings, Simpson, then Service to wrap up stage 2. Stutzman third, then Bailey, Cortez, and Berger should still get 7th. Oh, I'm not sure how that's going to be credited, actually. As Fitzpatrick and McMahon now go by, and suddenly Seth Fitzpatrick's race points payout might not be so bad as he's racing for 7th here with McMahon. Oh my goodness, this race is something else for sure. Let's go back though. I don't want to miss this opportunity to get a replay of what just happened with Berger and Stutzman into turn 3 a few moments ago. That is huge. I mean, that is championship changing potentially.
Yeah, I don't know how they both didn't just wreck here in front of the field. We'll see it here above the corner.
They drove into each other, I think.
I don't know what happened to Berger. I think Berger obviously was the contact initiator there. From that view of it, I don't know if he got sideways off the corner and trekked back into Stutzman.
This is a better view. Stutzman came a far ways off the wall.
Right. You saw when Berger went more down towards the middle lane, it kind of, the weight shifted and he lost a little bit of balance and the car kind of shot back right on him too.
Let's watch this from Jennings' perspective here and try to see who goes furthest. Oh, man.
Oh.
Berger pulled down and Stutzman tried to go to side draft, and I think at that point Berger kind of canceled his move and came back up the racetrack. Let's watch this again in slow-mo. We'll really see a whole lot.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. It was harder for me to tell Stutzman came down too, but you're right. It looked like they kind of met.
This is the move for Berger down the racetrack. He pulls down to get out of the side draft, and Stutzman follows and just, I think Berger came up a little, but really that is mostly Stutzman coming way far down the racetrack to try and side draft. And I don't know, with 100 and change left, is that really that necessary?
I know Stutzman really needed those 10 points for the stage. Berger, I mean, I don't know if he knew that, Stutzman was going to come down in side draft, but certainly Berger could have afforded losing a spot there. Stutzman could not, for all intents and purposes, lose a spot, and he's lost the lead draft as well.
It's risk versus reward, though, Emerson. You might gain a spot short term, but clearly you can lose spots short term and long term, and that's what's happened here for Jeremiah Stutzman. I don't fault him for racing. I think that was a little far down the racetrack to have gone, and obviously hindsight is 20/20 in this case. But that just seems awfully aggressive and high risk, really low reward at that point.
Well, now we've gotten ourselves into a weird little scenario. Last Chance Racing, they've kind of split the lead pack. With the contact between Berger and Stutzman, that certainly didn't help. But we also saw when Bailey had his moment, these guys lost a little bit of touch as it was, and I'm sure they probably had a little bit of a slowdown too, trying to avoid Berger and Stutzman. So the 6-car lead pack is split into 2 small 3-car packs. And now alternate strategies can be a little bit more welcome since there's no one big pack right now on the racetrack. That being said, if Swift was going to pull that, Max would need to grab one of his teammate lappers in Cortez or Schumacher, because Max cannot currently do that right now by himself.
On board currently with Seth Fitzpatrick in the 8th position, and you know what this feels like, Emerson? An endurance race, where we've just got everything all over the place. A few cars up front, a few cars in the middle, a few cars in the back, and cars that are laps down but battling for position inside of the top 10. It feels like a 6-hour race or something like that is working its way down into the back half now. As we're about 2 laps actually from halfway. But let's revisit the standings as we watch the top 3 come around turns 1 and 2. Jennings comes into today 20 points to the good. He's leading. He just won stage 2. He's set, right? He's got at least 38 points to Schumacher. Plenty more, probably 45 or so. So we can almost consider him locked in at this point, so long as he doesn't completely. I think even if he were to crash out now, he'd still be 35, 40 points over Schumacher at worst. But then you're looking to Seth Berger, who was just involved in that contact with the 71 of Stutzman. Stutzman's already way out of this. Berger now is going to lose all those stage points there in stage 2. Call it 6 or 7 he just lost. I don't recall where he finished in stage 1. But he's well down the order right now, 12th place, and he's not on the racetrack. He's losing more laps. This will be 10 laps down this time by, and he's still got, I think, about 3, maybe 4 minutes to go for the repairs. He's going to lose a lot of points today. He is very much going to be behind Service, maybe even, excuse me, maybe even behind Fitzpatrick if Fitzpatrick gets enough points from the race.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, he is only one lap down, but he's still alive, and he's picking up the scraps as they go. Interestingly enough, Adam Gardner returned to the racetrack. Not really any, I guess, motive there other than to just complete all the laps for Adam Gardner. Andrew St. Cyr just called it a day as we speak.
Oh, that's points.
That is points potentially for Schumacher, and if Seth
And
Berger
Berger,
can rejoin the race.
Checking into the Berger situation, he is on the pit lane. Not able to go really anywhere right now. Wheel turned to the left when he came in.
Session, though.
Yes, he's still here. That's what matters. Do you want to maybe grab him and talk to him?
He is somebody who will talk to us in moments like this. So yeah. We'll go ahead and bring him on up. Driver of the number 77, and Seth. Very hard racing there for stage 2. Stutzman, and I gotta have it scenario. What could you take away from there? What did you see? I'm sure you've had a moment to look at the replay now.
I got wrecked, man. There's no other way to say it. I moved down, and he had plenty of room up there, and he was side drafting like crazy the whole race. And I should have known he would have done that, and I guess I should have just dropped all the way to the bottom. But I thought he would have been a little bit smarter with over 100 laps to go. So I'm not too happy with it at all.
And that makes sense. Absolutely. You came into today with 16 points below the cut line. You did grab some stage points in stage 1. And the cut line drivers and Fitzpatrick and Schumacher have had trouble today, but now you're in a similar boat. I'd imagine the plan is to stay in and grab the scraps you can. But what do you feel on your outlook now on a potential path to a 3rd consecutive championship for?
Luckily I got some decent stage points in the first stage, and I believe I got either 7th or 9th or 10th. So I got a few points or a point there. Had a big cushion over Fitzpatrick and the cut line, so I don't think I'll be must-win next week, but I definitely won't be as comfortable.
Things will get a little interesting at North Wilkesboro. Seth, you brought out a new paint today. I see the Superior One Electronics Incorporated there on the side of the car. Want to talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, that's where I'm working, Chicagoland Area Electrical Company. They even wired up Navy Pier for Chicago people watching. You obviously know what Navy Pier is. But yeah, great company. Definitely go check them out. Happy to have them on the car this week. Unfortunately, didn't get them to run, but I got them some screen time, so I guess I'll be happy about that, and nothing you can do about it now, but thanks for them being on the car, and shout out Burger Nation for watching, and happy birthday to my mom. This wasn't a good birthday gift, but happy birthday.
There you are. Happy birthday, Miss Berger. And Seth, unfortunately, got caught up in some trouble here just before the end of stage 2, Seth. But best luck to you next week in North Wilkesboro, man.
All right, thank you.
That was driver of the number 77. Still looking decent for the for his run to the championship 4, but not what he expected here on lap 119 at 225.
Yeah, and you know, I think his take in general, as far as who's at fault, is pretty similar to mine. And I'll you know, that is an Andrew Cardinale the 4th view, not necessarily a pit stop TV view. What I'm saying here is, I agree that it was aggressive. Certainly, Seth did not mince words, but I agree that it was at least aggressive. And there's smoke ahead, I thought. It looked like there was smoke anyways.
Gardner had an issue on the back straightaway. Oh,
boy. Troubles again for the 56 car as he comes into the pit lane. We'll get a replay of what just happened to Adam, but I agree to a point with Seth. Clearly, he's a lot more frustrated than I ever would be, but yeah, I think the big thing here is it was aggressive. It was with a long ways to go. It's risk versus reward, and that is part of racing, admittedly. And Adam Gardner, wow, that's a weird one. That's a big hit to the inside wall.
As Adam Gardner leaves the track, Seth Berger rejoins, and Schumacher will look to at least grab that spot, and then St. Cyr as well. So the point scenario will shake up a little bit more, as looks like Berger will trek towards 11th and Schumacher to 12th for now.
Just one more look at it there for Adam Gardner. While he takes service in the pit lane, and that is more points for guys in the back that need them, we are going to go pit stop TV side by side. We're just past halfway here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jonathan Jennings, Hunter Simpson, Max Service, your front runners, your top three, with about 25 laps left to go in this run. We'll be right back in just a few.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence. Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Welcome back to the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, race 34 of 36 for the Outlaws Sim Series in Season 3 here in 2022. Thanks for joining us here on November 16th. We get closer and closer to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and just the holiday season in general. And, this season continues to go on. And Emerson, these guys started racing back in February. Let's take a look quickly while these guys continue on green flag as to how we got here. So many races packed into this season. There have been a few delays for hurricanes in the south. But, 36 races in all, with the All-Star race in there at Kansas right at the beginning of the playoffs, and even the duels way back before Daytona. It's been a long season.
Yes, it has. It's been a trek. We had the our clash first week of February, and unfortunately, we had to push this race back along with I think we pushed USA back as well for hurricanes, right, yeah. And of course. Thoughts and prayers and to everybody who might have been affected by those. Fortunately, the drivers we have in Outlaws who were in those affected areas, they fared pretty well, and they were able to continue racing on. Especially a lot of the playoff drivers, or not a lot, but some select playoff drivers were in those paths as well. So glad that they were able to continue racing, and that Adam was at least giving them their fair shot. Because no one's predicting a hurricane to just show up at your house in the middle of the playoffs.
And you mentioned those standings and those playoff drivers. Here's a look at things. And Jennings comes into this afternoon, 28 points above the cutoff. Seth Berger, he's been involved in a crash under green today with no caution. He actually has not yet, he has rejoined the racetrack. Looks like about 14 laps to go, so he is back racing finally as Seth Berger in the 11th position. So it's not the worst. We don't have a ton of cars here today. He's not losing a ton of spots, but he did miss out on a lot of valuable points there at the end of stage 2, so he will very much fall to the 3rd position. Seth Fitzpatrick, Adrian Schumacher, they are in the same spot. They were involved in a crash earlier and a caution in stage 1, so they missed out on a lot of stage points today, and they'll be floating somewhere around there. Likely a much larger gap though between Fitzpatrick and Schumacher after this race, as Schumacher is in 12th, 26 laps down, and Fitzpatrick is in 8th, only 1 lap down. And then you get to the guys in the back, Stutzman, Bailey, and Reeves. It's been a quiet race for Bailey and Reeves, but Stutzman comes into today 27 points out. He made up a few by leading, made up a few in stage 1, but didn't make up enough in stage 1. He was dominant in that stage and still finished, 7th place or so, 8th place or so, and then going for stage points in stage 2, Emerson, we saw what happened.
Yeah, Stutzman made contact with Seth Berger on the back straightaway with a lap and a half to go in the stage. Stutzman still fared pretty well. I believe he still finished top 5 in the stage, maybe even 4th when the stage concluded. But now finds himself in a small pack trying to track down the leader, 16.5 seconds back with Vincent Cortez. And an intriguing day because we've had now 6 drivers. Nope, that's a wrong count. We've had 4 playoff drivers in trouble, and Jacob Reeves has also had some sort of issue, I imagine, on the pit lane instance. So 5 drivers in trouble today for in the playoffs, and here's Fitzpatrick coming down the pit lane.
Seth Fitzpatrick into the pit lane at the end of his run. He only ran 61 laps, though, so I think he's seeing the same thing we were, where you don't have to run every single lap on these tires and fuel. You can cut a few short and be okay, considering you still have to make an extra pit stop. This is still a 2-stop race, no matter how you cut it. And here is one of those 2 stops for Seth Fitzpatrick. He's down and away, though, in about 14.6 seconds, so not a long stop, not a bad stop for Fitzpatrick. And it's weird to me, Emerson, given the early trouble that we're talking about him in such a viable position, only 1, now 2 laps down, and still in the top 10.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick got away with some suspension damage there. He, of course, caught the rear end, and Jonathan Jennings is pitting right now, along with the rest of the Last Chance crew.
Yeah, so this is suddenly the mark, and oh, McMahon out in the grass that time. That may be an unsafe entry, may even be speeding into the pit lane. This leaves Max Service on the racetrack on his own. Well, not on his own. He has Matthew Byers, oddly enough, with him. As they run down the back straightaway, I would imagine Service will come in this time, but Jennings into the box, a little bit deep. Looks like he's in the box okay, though, along with Bailey and Simpson. And Max Service does indeed pit this time.
Trying to get all he can on that pit entry. Oh, baby. I don't know if he got down to pit road speed, but he certainly, he was digging. And we'll see if he can come out and merge with Jennings and Simpson.
Short stop for Jennings, 14.3. Long stop for Simpson under 14.7. It's that tight of a margin. And
However,
McMahon
Scott
did get a penalty.
Yeah, McMahon got a penalty. Scott Bailey did not join Simpson and Jennings, so it's only 2 cars together when that group of 4 pitted, and Service is going to at least try to hook back onto that.
Yeah, Bailey a little ways behind his compadres, his teammates there that pitted. Cortez stays out, Stutzman stays out, but where does Service? He got a penalty. Max Service with a penalty.
Yep. Well, he was trying to get all he could. And you know what? He just texted me as well. I'm afraid to open it.
Yeah, that's a big one for Max Service, and that was really the only other shot that Swift Racing had today, I think. Unless we get a caution, which seems increasingly unlikely, with 10 cars realistically in this race, call it 12, with a couple of lap down cars in Berger and Schumacher. Swift Racing, they showed up with the most stable race cars, but they've been taken out in a couple of key incidents.
Yep, and he just he did confirm it was speeding, but we saw it. He was digging. I think he needed to take that risk if he was going to stay with Jennings and Simpson. For what it's worth, he's not damaged or anything, and he's still going to fare pretty well compared to the other 5 playoff drivers who had trouble today. But that leaves only Jennings and Scott Bailey without real trouble today, and Stutzman is still up there in the mix.
Oh, man. This race really needs a yellow. Just everybody, I think, would be happy to see a yellow aside from those couple of last chance cars at the front. Fitzpatrick would benefit from it. Reeves would benefit from it. Service, Berger, Schumacher, even throw in guys like McMahon. Schumacher needs 26 yellows, though, so I don't know if we're going to get that far, but just... Yeah, this is a really odd race, and here comes Vinny Cortez finally into pit lane, and he's all over the place. I think that was speeding.
That one was a tough one, trying to get down to pit road speed. Now, what I don't know, and I don't know how quickly he could have gotten it, but I don't know how Max wasn't able to get some of his teammates, like maybe like Schumacher, who's lapped, to try to fall back to him and try to pit with him, so at least he'd have a teammate and wouldn't have to push the pit entry that hard. Cortez, I'd imagine, realized he's coming to pit road by himself. He pushed the pit entry hard, and we'll watch here after his 4-tire service if he has to sit in the box another 40 seconds. Ooh. He's down the way. He got it.
All right, Vinny. Now, the unfortunate thing for Vinny, and well, not for Vinny, but for Swift Racing, is he's not in the playoffs. He doesn't really matter at the end of the day, you know, when you're coming down to trying to win this championship. He's just out there to try and win races. What an interesting race. There's Jennings with Simpson and Bailey. Those 3 cars in their own little line. What an interesting race.
It's Stutzman's coming in with Reeves. And Service just was getting to that group, and Schumacher was there as well. Schumacher tagged the wall, but he kept going as these 2 came down the pit road.
Stutzman, by the way, just led a bunch of laps, too. I mean, not a bunch of laps, but a few laps anyways, to add on to his total from earlier. 33 laps led now for the 71 car as he comes into pit. And, oh, it's a little deep, and, yep, sure enough, has to back up into his box. But he's going to lose some time there as Jonathan Jennings takes control of this race. Where are these guys going to sort out? That's the question.
They should. Well, Stutzman and Cortez, they're going to stay ahead of Max Service. It looks like Byers is pitting now.
All the while, It's clean sailing for these 3 cars. 2 of them for this playoff battle. And you know who I'm impressed with? I don't have the points that he's gained today in front of me. I don't know where he finished today in those stages, but I am so impressed with the 11 of Scott Bailey. 3rd place right now. He's just kept his nose clean. Everything he's needed to do in that regard. He's going to walk away with a haul of race points. I don't know about stage points, but race points, it's going to look good.
Yeah, certainly. If he points his way into the Championship 4, you look back at the monster comeback he's had this race. Because that certainly would have been the first stepping stone towards it. He's still got a lot of work to do, of course, next week at North Wilkesboro, but he's got some very capable teammates at those short tracks that can lend a helping hand in trying to get him prepared for that race as well. And I'm expecting a lot of last chance dominance next week as well, but we'll see. Swift Racing's going to have to hit the ground running next week as well if they're going to show that they're going to be a threat at Richmond.
Reeves back into the pit lane. Didn't he just pit?
Yeah, that might have been speeding on exit there for Jacob Reeves, and we'll see here.
He's into the box, and yeah, I mean, I doubt he goes up on Jack's, yeah. Stop and go penalty.
Just a stop and go. There you go. That might have been a pit exit line violation. You might have put the right sides over that.
Could have been that. I saw smoke ahead of the leaders, and then he was the car on the bottom of the racetrack, so it could have been that, actually. But that is huge. Somebody who wants to go trophy hunting, unfortunately, 2 very costly mistakes on pit road put him 4 laps down right now. Unfortunately, the only trophy he's getting, I think, might be most pit penalties, and I mean that in the best of ways, Jacob. It's been a rough day for Car 22.
He's got a lot of competition in that department, though. My goodness.
Yeah, it's been a rough day, I think, all around for these guys trying to pit. Yeah. And it's interesting. This is a league that has to do that often, just not at Atlanta every single week. And Atlanta, admittedly, is one of the hardest tracks to do it at, as has been evidenced today. Also worth mentioning, Jeremiah Stutzman is 1 lap down now behind these guys, his teammates, and Bailey and Simpson and Jennings.
Still going to be a relatively decent haul for Stutzman. He actually might work out relatively even with Bailey when it comes down to it, and with the trouble that Fitzpatrick and Schumacher had. Again, the door is wide open, and Berger as well. The door is going to be wide open there for some of them, at least one of those guys to work their way into the Championship 4.
There's Schumacher lapped one more time there in car 82. He is now 27 laps down. And these guys are, of course, catching Vincent Cortez. They will lap up through 4th position, I should say, as the top 3 are all in their own pack. Service and Fitzpatrick are together right now in 6th and 7th spots. Kind of an unlikely duo, but Service needs to at this point after the issues on pit lane for himself. He's 1 lap down. And it's going to get more and more difficult for either one of these guys to get back in this race, considering Cortez and Stutzman will soon both be a lap down. That puts the lucky dog position to only 4th.
Yeah, that one's going to be intriguing. And also, Stutzman being latched on to the lead group, he's more than likely going to hold on to that lucky dog position.
Well, there's certainly a lot playing out in front of us today, Emerson, and a lot more left to go. We still have, trying to do the math, 70 laps to go here at Atlanta. 1 more pit stop at some point for these drivers. Let's go to Sounds of the Sim. We don't do this all that often anymore, but Sounds of the Sim here at Pit Stop TV, and you'll be able to hear everything going on out on the track, and boy, some good sounds as well. Welcome back to our voices at the very least. You never left the Atlanta Motor Speedway, but we just saw something very interesting, Emerson, in turns 3 and 4, and honestly, I can't yet explain it as to what happened to Jonathan Jennings a moment ago, so let's allow the replay to explain what just happened to car 91 in turns 3 and 4, but there was a puff of smoke and something happened, and he lost the race lead.
Yeah, it's weird that a kind of scenario would come out like this when you got like your teammates behind and there's no pressure. Looking to our lap teammate Justin McMahon, he just gets loose.
Wow. Good job hanging onto that car. We'll watch that one more time. The car just slowly went away. Slowly tried to come around on him. And I think he was slowly trying to dial in a little bit of steering, but eventually it just was not enough. And thankfully there was no overcorrection there from Jonathan. But whoa, middle of the corner. That number 91 nearly came around.
And he's already working his way forward.
Yeah, his teammates quickly worked him back into the fold. Bailey and Simpson, they're now on the bottom side of the racetrack. His teammates anyway, as Jonathan Jennings, well, they get back single file as he pulls in behind Jeremiah Stutzman. And this is definitely going to be a play. We discussed it momentarily to ourselves, Emerson. A play to try and get Stutzman back around Cortez just in case of a yellow. That's going to have to happen at some point from these last chance racing boys.
I think it's happening right now. I think that was going to be the move, but Cortez, the big help with that virtual mirror, is looking at everything that's going on behind him, and Cortez is not going to allow Stutzman to get by him easy, knowing that that's pretty much his only chance to get back into the race.
They just have such control of this race, though. I mean, last chance racing has shown up and executed. Call the incidents earlier what you will, but they've gotten through those incidents. They have continued on. Bailey now leading the race, finally racking up points for himself. That's actually rather big for Scott Bailey to be out here leading laps, and he could still potentially go out for most laps led. I mean, 87 laps, well, maybe not, I guess, with 87 laps led for Jennings, but he could potentially put together a large number, and honestly, if you're Jennings and company, leave the 11 out front. Let him win this race. He's into the Final Four then.
Yeah, that's somebody who could use some help. Hunter Simpson, he's a newcomer to the series. He's not in, any desperation, I think, to get past Scott Bailey. It's not like he's on a long winless drought. So I could definitely see that. And here's one of those plans to try to get Stutzman around Cortez.
It worked for a moment, but not really. It didn't work fully to plan. It just started to work to plan there for Stutzman, but he has to fall back in behind Cortez. Now he goes back to the top side of the racetrack. It didn't work out just yet, so he's got to try again. And now you see the Last Chance Racing team all to the top side of the racetrack. That leaves Cortez on the bottom, and it's going to move him a couple of extra spots back. You see the 20 car McMahon, he's 3 laps down.
Yep, everybody coming to get Stutzman forward. Even Simpson drops to even maybe put a block on Cortez. Oh, yeah, that's true, yep.
Simpson was very sideways at a turn 2 that time and just hung on right in front of Vinny. And thankfully, Vinny was able to throttle out a little bit. But, in the grand scheme of things, this makes sense. I don't think Vinny is going to fight too much. Obviously, he would like to get that lucky dog spot, but he's not in the championship race as he nearly gets to the back end of the 15 car. Both of them were loose that time through 1 and 2. But Vinny's not in the playoffs. Stutzman is. This makes sense. Put the 11 and 71 out front. If a caution comes out, the 71's back on the lead lap, but right now Scott can just rack up laps led, do so safely, and maybe drive away to a win.
Certainly. We do have that one more pit stop looming, and that can now happen at any time. We are within the fuel window to the end, and it just depends on when Last Chance wants to make that call, and if everybody can do it smoothly. The thing on that is that, they have everybody up here and they don't have to pressure each other, but we've seen cars slide through stalls. We've seen cars speed on entry. We've seen pit exit violations. We've seen them all. I don't know if we're going to have a clean in, clean out all the way through on a third time around. It can, obviously, these guys pit very often in the Outlaws Sim Series, but it's been very treacherous today.
You know what they could even do for Last Chance Racing is see Cortez fight back at the bottom. They could put Stutzman in front of Bailey. And it might hurt a little bit just because Stutzman has that damaged nose, but that would guarantee him that he's back on the lead lap in case of a caution. Whereas if they potentially make contact bumper to bumper, it would actually invalidate the lucky dog for Stutzman and keep him one lap down. Now, I know in case of a yellow, if Cortez is clean at the time of yellow, that would put another car on the lead lap, but the safest play actually would be to put the 71 out front right now and for Bailey to sit second in line, because again, it guarantees Stutzman the lucky dog. Whereas if there was even a 0x at time of caution, it could invalidate that and consider him, because there was an incident at that point in time, consider him to be part of the caution. It's weird how iRacing does that, but I feel like that might be the safest play. I don't know if they're going to go for it, because it doesn't seem like it's really that much of a risk right now, but it's an idea, at the very least, floating around as these guys continue to put laps down. We do have... Go ahead.
I was just saying that's true. The other part of that would be if Stutzman is effectively, sitting in front of Bailey and effectively on the lead lap, then he would get to line up in the true fourth position.
That as well,
and
yep.
Cortez would be at the back of the field. But right here, you get Stutzman on the lead lap if yellow comes out, but he doesn't really get to race, and he has to start behind damaged cars. So, you're weighing the options here. Cortez is fighting back, though. He's not going to just let Stutzman sit there.
Oh, Vinny, that time out of 2, a little bobbly, a little loose. And there goes McMahon now on the outside. Jennings already passed him by. There are 3 cars in the lead lap currently. 4 cars 1 lap down, 1 car 2 laps down, 1 car 3 laps down, and 1 car 4 laps down. And the rest way back, everybody's on their own laps aside from Setzer and Rogers, who are out of this race by 161 laps. And there you see Vincent Cortez finally just pops up in line and puts Simpson on the bottom side of the track. Vinny a little loose there that time at a turn 2.
And uses the checkout.
Whoa, look at that, yeah. Big time dive to the inside of 3. He lined up, got a pull, and look at McMahon to the fence now. But Cortez bringing the race, at least trying to bring the race to Jennings and Stutzman, but it's short-lived.
He needs Schumacher and maybe if he can pick up Seth that's lying around somewhere on the track. He needs to get a group of them together, and he'll go to the outside of Jennings. Jennings
loose in 1 and 2. He pulls down to the inside. McMahon's all over the place behind him. But here comes Cortez now. He's going to have open track up to Stutzman. Meanwhile, everybody in this race has to pit one more time, and here we go. Stutzman has a mirror full of the 23. The 23 goes outside. Everybody's going to go right down to the bottom then.
Cortez, if he's not loose, can side draft Stutzman, and that's what he's going to do. He'll get the run. He'll have no support up there, but he's going to put his best of a fight as he can. And with the 15 blinking out, it's not going to be a consistent help behind the 71.
But he has that consistent draft out front as Stutzman that time bobbled off the apron in 3 and 4. It's just enough to keep Jeremiah out front of the 23 at Cortez. It's just enough to keep Jeremiah ahead of Vincent, as Matthew Byers will come into the pit lane and come in and grab service. Left side's going on now. He'll rejoin the track in just a moment. He was 2 laps down, and the 8th position is now 3 laps down as this battle continues. Cortez inside of Stutzman. You can see Bailey goes up top, Simpson goes up top, all of the help up top for Stutzman.
This is an interesting dynamic. Cortez, very aggressive. He's not going to sit. I'm sure even if he falls all the way back to the back of this pack, he's going to go for it again. But it's wild. Cortez is going against an entire army, it seems like. Now he's got Schumacher behind, but Schumacher's just kind of been riding at the back of this pack. And, everybody's just fighting for the aid of Stutzman here and keeping him ahead of Cortez.
Cortez now finally has a little bit of help on the bottom side of the track. A little loose, though, that time out of 3 and 4. So let's talk championship here. Where do you think this works out? We could run the numbers if we wanted to, but it's a little tough to do so on the fly. This is going to be a rough situation, certainly for Jacob Reeves. He's definitely must win now as he's back on the pit lane for 50 seconds. Byers as well, 1.5 minutes. Are they calling it done?
Oh, man.
This would be huge for the guys behind them if they just quit the race. Service is in. Berger is in. There goes Byers finally. That must have been a multi penalty or a whole lot of repairs or something. There's Reeves.
A little damage on that 22 machine. Service, clean in, clean out.
And Reeves is in the car. He's swerving the wheels. Just not going anywhere. 90 seconds. This is a long time to be waiting, and it doesn't look like there was any kind of incident leading up to it, as now Fitzpatrick comes into pit. I don't think they're done, but this is, I mean, these are a lot of laps these guys are losing. 6, 8 laps for Byers and Reeves. What a bizarre race, that's for sure.
It's something else. You see there, Simpson shuffle down to the bottom. He was blinking, so I don't really know what race control does in this spot. I guess just send him to the back of the pack. Let these guys continue to race. The real race is right there with Stutzman and Cortez. And Cortez gave it another go, but he doesn't want to drop and then get freight trained again. So, well, he's going to go down anyway. I guess so.
He's giving it a shot, and he pulls the nose ahead of Stutzman. If a yellow were to fly now, he would have had the lucky dog spot. Now he actually slides up in front of Jeremiah Stutzman.
Oh my gosh.
I think Jeremiah let him have it, honestly. It looked like he rolled out, and Bailey gets the fence.
And now they're both on the lead lap. I'd imagine he's just going to fly behind Stutzman.
That would move Max Service now to the lucky dog position.
But he's 2 down, but he did just pit.
So once this cycles through, Service could be your lucky dog, and this could be a race between Service and Fitzpatrick straight up. Actually, no. How are they so separate? They were just together.
Everybody pitting now for the leaders. Oh!
Leaders come on in.
Stutzman drove it hard to get to the inside of Cortez.
What a bizarre race in Atlanta. I don't know what else to say. As our leaders come on in, all 5 cars that are technically on the lead lap, even if some are on the tail end. As Simpson, long in his box, has to back way up. Let's see where these guys all sort out.
And Simpson is grayed out for a while now. Cortez wins the race off pit road.
Scott Bailey will win as far as the true leaders go.
Instead.
Sure enough, this pulls Stutzman out of the top 5, it looks like. Or at least this could be down around Max Service territory when he's done.
It should be.
Yes, Service just goes on by.
Wow.
He could be down around Fitzpatrick then.
Fitzpatrick, yeah. I don't know how they got so spread out. How did that happen?
I question that one for sure. I don't know what just happened, but Fitzpatrick is coming out of turn 4 now. There he is. Stutzman still on the pit lane. Oh, this is a long, long stop. And yeah, 40 seconds on top of a normal stop. Finally leaves. Fitzpatrick goes right on by. And it's now, it looks like 3 laps down. It'll end up being for Stutzman once the leaders come back around to him. Or just 2, actually. He got away with that one. Just 2 laps down for Jeremiah, but it's still a killer penalty.
Puts Cortez on the lead lap for a bit, and Service in the lucky dog spot. Stutzman now going to be in a much more difficult points position at North Wilkesboro. Potentially a...
call it a must-win. He didn't get the stage points he needed. Call that a must-win for sure.
And then Bailey, who has the support of all his teammates, he just locked himself up a spot today.
He just might.
Is this Service going to unlap himself here?
Yeah, so Max Service just drove onto the lead lap.
And look who's behind him.
With Seth Berger pushing him. And Berger then is going to end up being now only 17 laps down. Now we're not going to get 17 cautions, but it's still a step in the right direction in case anybody else falls out of this race. As there's Fitzpatrick on the bottom side. Service has just put a lap on Seth Fitzpatrick.
Wow. And Service now treks towards the lonely Vincent Cortez. They'll get a group going, but Bailey will latch on to Berger.
What a bizarre race here in Atlanta. This is just crazy. Jennings is still second, Simpson third, Cortez fourth, ahead of the leaders. Service then fifth, right in front of Scott Bailey, as he looks like, I mean, we still have 35 laps to go, and nearly hooks Berger. This race isn't over. Can't be doing this, boys. There's no place for this. Scott Bailey, don't risk this. Let them run.
I cannot believe Scott Bailey was that aggressive trying to get to the inside of Berger. Breaks up a little bit of the Swift trio. Now Service jumps up high. Maybe Service is not up to speed. Berger coming to help. And maybe Cortez is going to slow down the inside lane. Maybe let these guys come down. Or no race.
Mind games. Mind games for sure. If you're Scott Bailey, you just got to back down. Let these guys race. Don't make any crazy moves. Ride the next 35 laps. Just ride. You got your teammates behind you. 3-1, baby! He thought about it. This is crazy.
I don't understand the aggression from Scott Bailey. They have to be thinking, I mean, right now the chances have gone up, but before this, what's the likelihood of a yellow, actually?
Well, you don't want to be the yellow, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Regardless of it coming out, you can't be the yellow, and right now Bailey's flirting with it as he's looking at 4th and 5th straight in front of him as the race leader. He's got Berger outside, so all of Swift Racing just about are encompassing Scott Bailey, boxing him down to where he is right now, and there's really nothing at this point Jennings can do. There's nothing they can do. There isn't a viable third lane, corner after corner. You can work it for maybe a half the track, maybe a full lap, but not a viable third lane for sure.
Jennings comes up. He importantly side drafts Berger, but Cortez, I think, is backing up at least Bailey. It glued to the rear end of Cortez, trying to push him past.
At this point, I don't think Jonathan Jennings is going to pass you. Just sit. Just wait. It's not ideal. You might have to do it for 30 laps. As here comes Jacob Reeves actually to play anchor. Yeah, right in front of Service. That's going to put Service back one lap down and open a hole for Scott Bailey.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Service is slamming the rear end of Jacob Reeves. Reeves is still backing him up.
The mind games are insane here in the Outlaws Sim Series. Where is Bailey going to go? He's now just riding in behind Vincent Cortez. Is he going to try to lap him? Honestly, I wouldn't even recommend it. Just sit there and ride unless you can get your teammates to work.
They saw how aggressive Cortez was racing Stutzman. Why would you put yourself in a position where Cortez is going to race aggressively?
Here we go. Bailey down to the inside. Cortez squeezes him a little bit. But Jennings will help the 11 car go on by, as does the 20 of McMahon. And now it's Reeves and Fitzpatrick. They were aggressive, the two black and orange machines. And these two are 8 laps apart on the racetrack.
Swift Racing, they're bullied by numbers. That's how you sum that up.
Yeah, they had the short advantage for once, and then it flipped.
Yeah, trying to keep Cortez and Service on the lead lap for the moments they could, hoping for a yellow to kind of bunch the field back up. They almost were the yellow. Then Reeves comes in out of nowhere and saves the day for last chance.
All while we're drawing closer to 25 laps to go. Your top 3 pulling away. Bailey, Jennings, Simpson. Well, Simpson not really pulling away yet. That's McMahon tailing onto the back end of Jennings. Simpson leading this 6-car side-by-side fight. And none of these guys are in it for position aside from Service and Cortez that are trying to work together. Service now up to the top side behind the 23 car.
And Reeves right behind is going to try to get Service out of shape. Berger drops down. They're trying to get that lined up there between the 2377 and 81.
On board with Service. You see Berger there on the inside is going to allow Max to just kind of do his thing. Fitzpatrick looks to the inside of Berger. And Fitzpatrick is a lap off of Service.
And these guys, they lost a lot of ground now to the group in front. And even if the Swift Racing trio is able to get clear, they're going to have to really work to catch them.
Cortez beginning that work, though. Actually, he now drops down in front of Jacob Reeves and Hunter Simpson. Simpson can go to the outside very quickly. Car 15 trying to put the fight back on Vincent Cortez.
Yeah, all that did really was invite those two to split up Swift again. So Simpson and Reeves work on through. Simpson maybe just trying to stick with the group out in front, and now we have Berger and Cortez side by side.
So to recap, Scott Bailey still leads the race over Jonathan Jennings and Hunter Simpson. For a moment, it looked like Bailey was going to get aggressive and put himself in position to maybe get caught up in a crash. Thankfully, that did not happen. So Bailey still leads and just may take home his first Outlaws Sim Series win today. Service and Cortez, Max Service in a position where he needs to make up some points. He's fourth, and we're saying he needs to make up points, but he really does. He's going to certainly pass Seth Berger, who is 11th in points. So we should have 3 safe drivers. Those being Jennings and whoa! These guys slowed way down all of a sudden. But those safe drivers
They're backing them up.
I'm sorry.
I said 100% they're still backing them up, or they both got loose in the trial.
Yeah, for sure. These guys are very much, I think, trying to work against Swift Racing right now. The gaps are growing. Simpson's 2 seconds behind, so call it a 2-second gap from these guys up to the race leader. But the 3 drivers we're going to consider safe, I think, are going to be Service, Jennings, and Bailey after today, which is crazy considering Bailey comes in 31 points out. But as long as he goes to victory lane tonight, that's how things look, which really puts the squeeze on guys like Berger and Fitzpatrick. Berger with a 16-point advantage coming into tonight. I'm trying to talk points, and these guys just won't let me. What is going on?
Reeves almost right hooked Service there, trying to get down in line.
Nose to tail, the 5 cars in the bottom now. Berger outside of Simpson. Fitzpatrick on Cortez. Here comes Reeves. And none of these guys are fighting for position aside from the 23 and 81.
Oh my goodness! But you said it, Andrew. We're not racing for position, but my goodness, the mind games, they are rampant. Rampant.
Yeah. And now Service. He falls off a little bit. He got loose or something. Reeves goes on by on the inside. There was nearly contact. I'm not sure what just happened there. But Service really needs to finish 4th over Cortez. Just to be safe. That extra point is going to matter. Max is all over the place all of a sudden. He's way loose.
Sideways. Oh my goodness. And he might just have to slow it down and just finish it out now.
Yeah, he might have overheated those tires.
Absolutely.
Oh man, he's sideways.
Yeah, you have your teammate and Seth behind you. Just cool the tires off. You're probably gonna lose this pack. Just finish it out. At this point,
you're inside of 20 to go. Big lift there into 1. Meanwhile, McMahon and Stutzman are now nose to tail. This for position. This is for 7th. And I'd imagine they flip positions by the end of the race just to get Stutzman that extra point. I don't think it's going to matter much. Stutzman is still going to be at least 25 to 30 points out, if not more. So then you're moving the cut line down to really make everything a must-win, aside from Seth Fitzpatrick on Seth Berger. I think that's... Well, and maybe even Schumacher. But I think even Schumacher's going to be in a must-win next week. I think certainly Reeves, Stutzman, they're in must-win situations. You know what? Props to Atlanta. It's changing everything that we thought we knew about this series going into the final races of the playoffs.
And here we're thinking, with 16 cars, the points aren't going to shake up that much. But with everybody kind of having trouble that isn't Scott Bailey or Jonathan Jennings, it has been a wild race in the terms of point structure.
And let's speak volumes on Scott Bailey. Yes, there's going to be the obvious asterisk you can look at of, his teammates are helping him get this win, but that's what a team is for. You surround yourself with people that can help you achieve your goals. And that is exactly, to a T, what a team is for, and it's worked out for him tonight with Last Chance Racing. Yes, again, the team is helping him, but you have to be able to execute. You have to be able to use that help correctly and keep yourself in position. So there is no less skill involved in Scott Bailey's win if he wins this race in 15 and a half more laps. I just want to cover that asterisk now before we get any naysayers out there. This is still an impressive win no matter what, because you've got to put yourself in a position all 225 laps. This broadcast is coming up on 3 hours here soon. This is not easy to put yourself in this kind of spot, put yourself in this kind of pressure, and try and deliver like this, especially with all of the calamity we saw in stages 1 and 2, with no caution for the incident we saw at the end of stage 2, and to just keep going and put yourself in this kind of spot.
Absolutely, and no joke. I think when you said earlier, this looks like an endurance race. It very much is. You said coming up to 3 hours, half an hour for pre-race. So call it a 2.5 hour race, a 2.5 hour sprint race. I mean, that's what they do in IMSA, and they have 2 drivers to do that. This is just one driver single stint, and it's been a tough outing mentally. Maybe not as physically, but as you sit there for 225 laps, it starts to become a little bit of physical strain, even though it's Atlanta. Well, actually, I say that, how hard these guys are working to keep these cars from spinning. It is a physical strain. And at that, with the teamwork aspect of it, we've now kind of seen this with 3 different teams over the past 3 seasons. It was Swift Racing that kind of brought, 9, 10 cars to plate tracks, and in the playoffs, they were all lined up at Talladega, and they were able to, well, there was a big wreck there. There was 31 cars, actually that one. But there were still 9 or 10 Swift Racing cars kind of controlling the narrative in season 1 at Talladega. And last season, I look at all of Performance Sim Sport. Causey, let's be real, didn't need help to work his way into the next rounds of the playoffs, but all of his teammates were right there lined up. He had about 7 of them lined up, pushing him to the win at Daytona. And Performance Sim Sport controlled the narrative. Greg Holt won that title, as Berger won the first title in season 1. And here we are with Last Chance Racing kind of controlling the narrative in the final super speedway race of the season. Numbers and knowing what to do and knowing where to place everybody. And here's Scott Bailey leading it. Jonathan Jennings looking like he's going to be a pretty well-favorited driver heading into Wilkesboro and Richmond. And it's Last Chance Racing controlling the narrative this season here at the end of it.
And suddenly, I think both the 91 and 11 are favorites at Richmond, as long as Scott Bailey is able to deliver over the course of the next 11 laps, matching his car number. As long as he goes to victory lane tonight, I think with the teamwork from Last Chance Racing, very much, the 11 and 91 are both favorites for Richmond. Caution!
Caution! Oh,
who stopped? It's Jacob Reeves. He's the only slow car. Cortez is your lucky dog. Service would have to be a wave round.
Cortez was part of the cause.
Oh, that means it should be Max.
I can see that, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Everything has just changed. So Reeves was leading this group with Cortez. And as long as Max Service isn't a part of this, he should be your lucky dog driver. Well, let's watch this into turn number 1. Cortez, I think, is going to go to the inside here, and yes, he does. And, he makes a little bit of contact there at the 22. A slide and a spin for Reeves. Question is, did the 81 get by with a clean nose?
He dove it down to the inside. I don't
see here in a
think he made any
second.
contact.
Let's watch. On board with Max Service, you're going to see it all happen in front on the bottom side of the racetrack. Contact. Max slows it down to the bottom. Slides a little bit, but for sure, no contact from Max Service. That is huge. Scott Bailey, everybody's in the pit. And one more time for the guys involved in this.
And actually, they still score Cortez ahead of Service. Service has not been waived around the pace car. I forgot, actually, Outlaws, they do manual lucky dogs. I'd imagine they'd still give it to Service, but actually Cortez is still ahead. Maybe there won't be a lucky dog on this yellow.
Oh man, that that would be everything Swift Racing does not need or want. Trying to find a better view, and it might be this right here from the tower. into turn one. Those are just two guys meeting in the middle, and I'm going to go back to the same thing I said with the Stutzman incident into turn three. I don't think that was necessary.
It wasn't necessary. I think for Cortez, he I don't know. He's not a playoff driver, and Reeves is, but Reeves is 9 laps down. Effectively, Reeves' race was over. It was about to be over in 2 laps. I don't understand that tight pinning him down. Neither of y'all are racing for position, and Cortez for keeping it down in there, but
well, it looks like Cortez missed it by a little bit too. He had plenty of daylight to the inside, and it's a tough spot to be in. So why put yourself in that spot? As Stutzman gets a wave around, I think several drivers getting a wave around. That will include Max Service. Cortez though is being held.
Yeah, but he will be EOL'd with Jacob Reeves. And Matthew Byers just spun under caution.
Into the outside wall. Is there suspension damage?
He just got waved around by the pace car, and he's actually going to still get that wave around. Oh, my goodness.
Well, while the drama unfolds, Scott Bailey's in a good spot. We don't want to talk to him, but maybe Jonathan Jennings potentially before we go back green? Actually, never mind. We are the one to go lap. We won't do that to him now, but guess should have had that thought a lap ago. But
now it's extended, so we have time.
Well, there we go. Let's go ahead and grab the second place driver then. And Jonathan Jennings, who, again, has done so much to help that whole organization with Last Chance Race. We'll go ahead and grab the driver in the 91. And Jonathan, we sit in an interesting spot. Of course, we've seen this entire race unfold before us, and a lot of mind games have certainly been the forefront. But there seems to be a clear effort right now to put Scott Bailey in victory lane. How do you help him do that here on this restart?
Oh no, I'm racing him for it, and I ain't letting nobody win over here. I don't do that. You got to earn it. That's racing.
Well, we like that answer, but is there anything on your mind? Or is it just a straight up go racer's mind for the last 7 or so laps?
My only thing is I don't want to wreck nobody, so that might affect my aggressiveness, but I'm gonna try to win it.
And how hard has that been with the way you guys been battling the car, swatting flies left and right as the run goes on? I know it's a short run here, but is it going to be difficult even on a short run?
Nah, the tires are good for at least 20 laps, and we don't have that much time, so.
Well, there you go.
It's gonna be fun.
Well, best of luck to you, Jonathan, and can't wait to see how this one boils down.
All right, thank you.
Jonathan Jennings from the second position on the outside of Scott Bailey. It's an interesting answer. I think definitely they were just trying, if that's the case, if he's racing straight up with Scott Bailey, that's just a matter of they were trying to get Scott to the end, not necessarily Scott into victory lane. What do you do then, Emerson, if you're behind the wheel of the 11 car?
Oh boy. The second I can, watch wheel spin if there is any in the restart zone and pedal down, use that big old virtual mirror, the top of my virtual cockpit, block every lane I can, and hope and pray I don't get sent down to the inside here before this one's over.
We'll have 6 laps to go this time out of turn number 4. And into the Geico restart zone. 2 rows double file, then a bunch of single file cars behind that. We work down to the Geico restart zone. Scott Bailey, your race leader. Green flag for 6 laps to go at Atlanta. Already they're racing. Jennings to the inside of Bailey with the help of Schumacher. And this is important. Schumacher's got to try and push the 91 and keep him ahead of Scott Bailey.
I was about to say that. Schumacher, he's rooting for Jennings over Scott Bailey here. Jennings winning this race and locking in doesn't affect Schumacher. Bailey winning this race and getting in almost phases out Schumacher. They race once again. Jennings with no help. And Simpson looks to stay loyal to the 11.
Yeah, we heard that Jennings isn't going to help Bailey. But Mike Simpson, they're in that same stable, and Simpson has no cards in the fight. He's just here to help his teammates, whereas Jennings is still racing for a championship. Jennings pulls up to the back end of the number 11 car through turns 3 and 4. It is 4 laps to go, this time by the stripe.
Jennings is trying. He certainly is racing. He's not going to give it easy to the outside of Bailey. Looking for some help now. McMahon to the back end of the 11.
Service is in this as well. He's just a few cars further back. He's only a half second out of the race lead, though. Down the back straightaway, Bailey leading. Actually, Jennings up top leading, rather. That's McMahon behind Bailey. That confused me for a second. And Simpson's in all of this. It'll be 3 to go this time by.
Side by side, and now Service has old tires, but if you're in this lead pack, anything can happen, and you could win it. And here we go, still. McMahon is not on the lead lap, but Simpson is. So Simpson's still fighting for positions up here if he can get them.
Bailey's got to get off the bottom. He's got to find some way to get to the top side. I don't know how it's going to happen, but he can't be trapped on the bottom like this. Jennings, otherwise, is going to power away to a race win. It'll be popsicle sticks. This time out of turn 4. There's the opening for Bailey. Does he take it to the outside? Not yet. Jennings pops down. There we go. Bailey to the top, maybe. He's going to fight.
All of a sudden, what teammates we thought were working together in the favor of the 11, they race it out with 2 laps to go. Less than 3 miles to settle it here in Atlanta, and we still have this race on our hands. They're starting to pull away from the rest of the field.
Service is trying to work his way in, but he's got older tires. Simpson falls back. It is mano-a-mano with 1 lap to go at Atlanta. Bailey moving left, Bailey moving right, trying to find a way by. The white flag is out, presented by Whiplash Sim Cams.
And now, this the race to see who will be racing for a championship at Richmond. Now down the back straight to the top 3, nose to tail. Bailey to the outside. Simpson trying to show he's going to get
Here
into
comes
this fight.
McMahon. Contact there, Bailey up top. It's going to be one of those classic Atlanta finishes, ladies and gents. And down to the stripe, Scott Bailey earns it at Atlanta.
Not given any handout there from his team. Scott Bailey wins his way into the championship floor at Richmond.
And crazy enough,
Wow.
the driver who enters this race, 7th in the standings, 31 points out, is the first one guaranteed to go and race for a championship at Richmond Raceway in the middle of December.
Everybody with the congratulatory bumps. Well deserved for Scott Bailey's first career win in the Outlaws Sim Series.
56 laps led. A lot of that was green flag, of course. The last few, they mattered most. Really, it was the last one off that restart. And Scott Bailey is a winner in the Outlaws Sim Series. We talked about that paint scheme at the top of the show, Emerson. The shades of 2008 Tony Stewart. Maybe not the year that Tony would want to remember, but the number that Denny Hamlin has taken to so many race wins as well. It's a good look for Scott Bailey. And maybe that combination of a championship driver of Tony Stewart and what should be a championship driver of Denny Hamlin, maybe that works out for him. He just looked so good today, at least in the last 50, 60, 70 laps. Might have been quiet, but he was quiet until it mattered.
Absolutely. And he kept himself clean. We saw almost all of the playoff drivers today struggle. If your name wasn't Jennings or Bailey and you were in the playoffs, you were probably having a bad day. And somehow, when the odds are stacked against him, 31 points, he was having a good points day where he still might have had a chance to point his way in at North Wilkesboro, even if he finished second. But to worry no more. A great day for Scott Bailey. This shapes up the rest of the playoffs very much so. It's going to be very difficult now for some of those drivers who were below the cut line coming in to point their way in.
Well, let's go ahead and back it up a little bit and talk to our winning driver this evening from Atlanta Motor Speedway, Scott Bailey in car 11. Just impressive, I think. Again, the last 70, 75 laps. And Emerson, here is a first-time winner in the Outlaws Sim Series by the number of 11, Scott Bailey.
And talk about coming in clutch. First career win in the Outlaws Sim Series when he needed it most. Scott when everything was looking grim, 31 points below the cut line, 7th place in the playoffs. You needed a miracle to work your way into the championship 4, and you got it, and not given any handouts by your teammates. Jennings fought you tooth and nail for it. How does this one feel?
Oh, it feels awesome. Yeah, I knew John wasn't going to just lay over. He wanted to win too. He wanted to lock himself in. So I appreciate him racing me clean, and it was a hell of a last 2 laps. I hope we put on a good show. Other than that, it was kind of a boring race, to be honest, but it was just a survival race, honestly. Those guys who didn't make mistakes on pit road that cost themselves is what got us out front. So, but yeah, huge win. I mean, couldn't come at a better time.
Absolutely. I think that, this might be the momentum boost at the right time for you. And you're right. It had a very much of an endurance race feel. If you ever watch sports car races or 24-hour races, and you get to those late portions where you have cars that are in the top 5 and battling for position laps down, that's the kind of vibe this race had. How did you stay focused for 225 laps?
It was tough. You're constantly looking at where people are at, the people around you. Not everybody's on the same lap. You're relying on lap cars to push you, especially when there's only 3-4 cars left on the lead lap. So yeah, it was pretty crazy there, especially the last 2 fuel runs, just trying to figure out what the best strategy was. Where everybody was going to kind of fold out, and then you had to go up and pass lap cars, and they're all fighting for position, so they're not going to just lay over. So yeah, it was tough, but man, we survived.
I now then ask, how do you like Richmond?
I do like Richmond. I mean, and I don't think it's like my absolute favorite track, but I like short tracks. I enjoy Richmond, so I think we'll bring a good car there. We'll have a shot. That's all we can ask for.
Well, there you go. First time winner in the Outlaws Sim Series, and he said it couldn't have come at a better time. When it looked like he was down and out of the championship 4, he wins his way to a ticket to race for a championship at Richmond. Scott, congratulations on the win today. Joining the wins list as a first-time winner in the Outlaw Sim Series, but more importantly, congratulations on your spot in the championship for Richmond, and best luck to you then.
All right, thanks guys, appreciate it. Have a good night.
Sir, driver of the number 11, Scott Bailey, and we've been watching them all season. It was going to be Bailey or Reeves who was going to be the next one to win in the Outlaw Sim Series, and with a wild way, it was Scott Bailey.
Look at the contact. This was the run to the line. A little bit of contact there between teammates. There was a little more. It was a classic Atlanta finish for Scott Bailey and the number 11. And finally, that man gets to go to victory lane and celebrate a race win. Let's take a look at our unofficial race results tonight from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Scott Bailey, of course, on top. Jonathan Jennings second. Hunter Simpson, though, in that 3rd spot, just over a 10th back, with Max Service hanging on to 4th on the lead lap. Thankfully, he was able to get back to 4th, get those extra points, but just not the situation that he wanted. Vincent Cortez 5th, Jeremiah Stutzman 5th, Seth Fitzpatrick, Justin McMahon, Matthew Byers, Jacob Reeves, the rest of the top 10.
Yeah, and the rest of Heartbreakers Row, Seth Berger actually ended up only 1 lap away there from Jacob Reeves, but was not able to get it. There 11th. Adrian Schumacher picked up every scrap he could. He finishes 12th. So very tough days for those playoff drivers. Andrew St. Cyr called it a day early in 13th. Adam Gardner as well had a couple incidents. Matt Rogers in trouble, and Matthew Setzer to ride up the 16 drivers who showed up today.
I will say, hats off, certainly, to those guys that were able to execute today and last through this race. 225 laps is a long time at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Emerson, let's go down to 2nd place, then Jonathan Jennings, I suppose, and maybe talk, well, at least if you want to go ahead and talk to him again. We just talked to him recently, but I'll make that your call.
Let's see if we can, if we have Hunter Simpson. I think that'd be one that we should talk to. it'd be his first interview in his third start.
Let's go ahead and bring in driver of the 15, Hunter Simpson. And Hunter, it was a long race out there for you and everybody else on the racetrack, but how did you get through that, outlasting everybody else out there, at least everybody behind you anyways, and staying on the lead lap, keeping that car clean?
I just tried to be patient and just try and be as smart as possible out on that track and just be aware of others and just put myself in a good position for the end.
And, obviously you're in that same little stable, if you will, as Last Chance Racing, and a lot of these guys were fighting for a title. What was it like? What is that like, trying to balance that? Obviously you want to go race for your own, but you want to help them out, I'd imagine.
I just do the best I can to not hurt them in any way, but I'm not trying to hurt myself either by laying over or, doing any shenanigans. I'm out here to race to win, and if I hurt any of my teammates in the process, I'm sorry.
Well, there you go. It worked out for you, Hunter. Podium finish tonight in one of your few starts so far in the Outlaws Sim Series. Congratulations on that. Hopefully we're talking to you for many more of these finishes in the future.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hunter Simpson wraps up the evening in the third position, and that's just a few tenths ahead of somebody who had a really tumultuous race, Emerson, in Mac's service. And his mic is muted in Discord, but hopefully we can dial him up.
Yeah, certainly we'll see if we can. He's usually one who will. He did unmute, so we'll go ahead and bring on up driver of the number 81 Max service. And Max, I know fourth isn't gonna be what you wanted today, but I'm sure the way this race ended, much better than you could have anticipated after speeding there on pit road. Overall, how was the race?
Sucky, just like New Atlanta. It's awful. The track sucks. You can't really do a lot. The lines don't move that well, to be honest. And after like the first 20 laps or so, we lost a bunch of teammates, and it was practically me and Vinny versus the field. So we did the best we could.
It seemed like it. The numbers were just stacked against you and Vinny, and even at full power with you, Vinny, and Seth, Adrian, and if you clue in Setzer and St. Core, you still were at a slight numbers disadvantage. Was there any talk coming into the race that y'all were going to be able to try to stay together, and did that fall apart, or were you just going to race it out and see where everyone kind of sorted out throughout the race?
Quite honestly, it started in qualifying. I didn't work at all in the qualifying setup, just trying to get the handling for the race because we were chasing that already. And I said, we'll just run a Talladega setup that I have for qualifying. Seth and Vinny went out with that. It didn't work very well. I went out with the race setup and qualified really good because I went after them. And I just kind of screwed them at the start and didn't have the numbers there. They got to the front and then got wrecked. And the whole goal was to just not have somebody below the cut line win, and obviously that happened. So that kind of puts us in a hole going to Wilkesboro more than I think we'd like to be.
Well, I don't think it's a hole because he still fared very decently well overall in the race and in the stages, Max. You should probably be slotted in now third in the points, but you're not going to be as comfortable heading to Wilkesboro as, say, if Jennings were to win that one. So I've been asked, how do you feel about North Wilkesboro? I know short tracks have been something that Swift has been trying to work on this season. So as far as how your setup building process goes this week, how are you going to go about that?
Usually I bring good setups at tracks that I'm good at. I am awful at North Wilkesboro. I am horrible there, so I'll try to come up with something good. I don't have high hopes. And quite honestly, we're trying to get 3 Swift racing cars to the Final Four, the 3 that are left, and that's not going to happen now, probably. I don't know. I'm going to have to bring something really good. I'm going to have to actually work on a setup more than I normally do, which is more like maybe an hour tops a week. Not even, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, somehow, some way, it's a lead lap, 4th place finish for Max Service. Still an overall disappointing day with how it works out. We'll drop a spot over on the playoff seeding, but it's still in the cut line from the looks of it. So Max, congratulations on finish out the race and finishing in 4th, and best of luck to you next week in North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, thank you.
Night Service finishes in the 4th spot, and Emerson, I think one other driver we had to talk to that it was kind of in a similar situation as far as Bailey coming into tonight is going to have to be Stutzman in that 6th position, and he's been patiently waiting in the interview waiting room the entire time since the race went checkers. And Jeremiah, an interesting race. Let's just cut right to the core of, I think, the most interesting thing. What happened coming to the end of stage number 2 between you and Seth Berger? Let's start there.
Well, first off, I owe him a huge apology because that was just a complete rookie mistake. I was looking in the mirror and the car drifted down, and before I could catch it, we were in the wall together.
Now, how do you rebound from that kind of thing when that happens, especially mid-race, no caution, and obviously Berger took a big hit from that. How do you rebound from that mentally?
She really just got to keep going, but still took all the enjoyment out of the race because we was having a good battle up there.
And obviously you had a really good piece underneath you. That 71 was flying on the short run, but as tires wore out quickly, we saw you start to struggle with handling. What is that like, I guess, as a driver? Obviously, you know you can go fast, but you have to pace yourself over the long run, it seemed like.
Yeah, I was good on the short run, and right in the middle, it got too loose. And then it felt like it started coming back to me compared to the rest of the cars I was around, and drove back up to the front. But it was fun trying to balance that out.
And for the points, of course, you came in tonight almost a must-win. It seemed like you could point your way in if you won the stages or came close to it. You didn't do that. So now North Wilkesboro in 2 weeks. How do you prepare, and do you think you can win that race?
I had no shot at winning that race. It's just that this was my last chance at winning it, and messed that up.
Oh, come on, man. I think definitely we'll be looking for car 71. Keep your head up high. Keep a positive outlook for it. Put in some work. And I'm excited to see where the 71 finishes at Wilkesboro in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you guys up there. Good job as always.
Thank you very much. And that's Jeremiah Stutzman Emerson finishing the 6th place tonight. I know it's a far cry from what he wanted, what he needed, but if he keeps the head high, keeps a positive outlook, and gets a lot of practice in for Wilkesboro, anything can still happen.
Absolutely, and I'll say it here, Jeremiah Stutzman. That's his outlook almost every time we interview him and ask him how the next race is, and he's very much has a negative outlook coming in, and then he somehow spins it around and makes it a positive outcome. That's just kind of how Jeremiah works. If it works for him, it works for him. He'll try his hardest at North Wilkesboro, and who knows how that can play out. It's a chaotic short track with a lot of bumps. It's gonna be intriguing.
Well, there you go. That is the race here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Emerson, I really don't know how to wrap things up yet. I really don't know how to recap what we've seen today. Just craziness. That's my first idea.
I can't really fathom how this race went, Andrew. If I told you before the race that we would have 2 cautions today, would you have guessed it'd be 15 laps in and 10 laps to go?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would have figured it would have been around one of the pit cycles or one of the stages or something, especially the stages. That's where I really thought something would happen. And we saw that happen at the end of stage 2, but just not the way we thought. What a crazy race we had. And that second caution really kind of is a head scratcher in a lot of ways. That first caution even could be, if you will, but just a crazy race at Atlanta. I will say that for sure.
Absolutely. It brought a lot to the table. Not the race that we had last week where we were kind of always looking, for the next strategy move and who was going to come out at where and what the point shakeup was like. But there was plenty of points talked tonight because 6 playoff drivers found themselves in trouble this evening. And a lot of them are now going to North Wilkesboro with, we're in or we win and we're in or we're out. We can see the schedule in front of us. North Wilkesboro next up, just 2 races to go.
for race 35 and race 36. We've got an elimination race at North Wilkesboro Speedway, then a finale, a championship race at Richmond Raceway, where everybody who is locked into that point will have a chance to race for a title, and whoever walks out with the best finishing position, that is who takes it home. So, Wilkesboro, we know that Bailey's going in. Well, he's safe now. Jennings should be as well. Service maybe even will be. There's one spot on the line for the other 5 drivers to find their spot. Those being, of course, being Seth Berger, Seth Fitzpatrick, Adrian Schumacher, Jeremiah Sutzman, and Jacob Reeves. But until then, we've got some other places to go race, other shows coming up here at Pit Stop TV. These are our upcoming broadcasts. These are our next 3 anyways. And I will say, small discrepancy, that Atlanta Motor Speedway logo should of course be the Indianapolis Motor Speedway logo for the Formula League Formula 3 Series from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Sunday at 11:40 a.m. Eastern. That's weird, 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time here on Pit Stop TV. Then we'll follow that up with Le Mans for the Sim Pit Road Racing Series with GT3 cars. And then it's a week off for Thanksgiving. We hope you guys will all enjoy or celebrate, or even maybe not celebrate, and just have a good time with a week off. And then we come back to Sebring for the Sim Pit Road Racing Series. So 3 road races in a row, 3 road broadcasts in a row here at Pit Stop TV. And then finally, after that, we'll go to Wilkesboro and decide who the remaining driver is that we expect to go race for a championship here in the Outlaws Sim Series.
Absolutely. As far as what's coming up, Circuit de la Sarre, Le Mans, that's going to be an absolute phenomenal show. There's the Simpit Road Racing Series, and those GTE cars, they have put on great shows each and every week that I've been able to call those races. And we've never had Le Mans on the channel. Andrew, so excited. And Sebring, we've had also very few and far between on the channel. And I'm very excited there. 2 iconic road racing venues coming up for the Simpit Road Racing Series. But of course, we have the playoff action continuing here in the Outlaw Sim Series. We have 7 drivers going for 3 spots effectively. It'd be 5 going for 1. But, we'll see how the points work out. But you can always keep up with Pit Stop TV on social media. At our Facebook page at facebook.com/pitstoptv, our Instagram at pit_stop_TV, our Twitter at pitstoptv_. We're live on Twitch this evening at twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV. And of course, our YouTube channel this evening, youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1. If you were watching on the Outlaws YouTube or Facebook page, go ahead and find your way over to the Pit Stop pages and drop a follow, a like, a subscription, all that good stuff.
And I will say, as far as upcoming tracks that are kind of exciting or unusual for us at Pit Stop TV, there are definitely a lot of them. I'm glad you highlighted a few of them. Well, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, first of all, the road course, that's rare here on the channel. Le Mans, never happened before, that's rare. Sebring is rare in and of itself. And then we have North Wilkesboro after that. We've only had a broadcast or 2 from there before with the Cars Esports Tour last year and then the Norkai Racing Series at one point. Then, after that, going into December, we will have, NARL comes back and they go to VIR, which is, rare. We don't really go there very often. We'll have Fuji on the channel for the first time on December 4th with the Simpit Road Racing Series season finale. Then we even go to Richmond, which is kind of rare here. We'll have Interlagos in January. We have 2 broadcasts coming up from Suzuka, so just some interesting tracks coming up for sure here at Pit Stop TV in the next coming months. But that will do it for us from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Thanks so much for joining us. A tumultuous time for sure, Emerson. How do you close this one out?
This race, we were looking at it, we were kind of dreading 225 laps, let's be real, because that's a long time, and these drivers, they had to slug it out. It was a tough one. 6 playoff drivers got caught up in incidents, and 2 finished first and second. Wild race. The mind games came to play there in the later stages of the final stage, and we got a late race caution out of nowhere that gave us a pretty thrilling finish.
Well, that'll do it for us here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Again, thanks so much for watching at Stop TV tonight. A big thank you to Emerson, who had me along, and a big thank you just in general, Emerson, having me along for these broadcasts at all. Wasn't part of the plan this year, but I'm glad I'm joining you here for the end of the season. We will see you next time, hopefully, for the Outlaws Sim Series at North Wilkesboro in 2 weeks' time, but hopefully also prior to that. Again, we've got broadcasts coming up this weekend. Make sure to check out social media for updates on those. But until then, thanks Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Have a great night.